Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is your captain speaking. Our altitude is currently 0 feet. I've got my alcohol lined up, and we're ready to have a little chat this evening. We are going to be doing a happy hour, which is a little bit different from what I normally do. Normally, we just pick specific movies and stuff and talk about that. But my guest tonight got in touch with me. We bounced around various ideas, and basically, we were going to just end up talking about something that's a lot more broader than that, which is going to be how females are represented in movies and how they've changed over the years, and perhaps how modern movies haven't really done them any favors. So yeah, hopefully it'll be an interesting discussion. So I am joined tonight by Baggage Claim. Hello.
Hello, so excited to be here.
No, it's great to have you on. Yeah, you got in touch with me a little while back, sent me a link to one of the videos that you'd made,
Yeah.
which is absolutely brilliant. I think it was like how wokeness has ruined modern movies.
Mhm. And
And it was
feminism.
yeah, and it was a great video. It was like, what, 10, 15 minutes long. It was relatively short, but you basically just distilled down a lot of what I've said on my channel over the past
Yeah.
couple of years into one just excellent video. And I just thought, brilliant, I've got to try and get this person on so we can have a chat. And yeah, here we are. We
Thank
managed to get
you.
it. We managed to get it scheduled finally. So
Yeah, thank you. And that video is like done well for itself now, but when I first posted, I think I spent like 3 weeks writing that. And I posted it, and it was like one of those like womp womp situations. It like literally had 50 views, and I just wrote it off. I was like, that one's not gonna do well. And then out of the blue, it just took off. Thank God.
yeah, all you need is for a few people to start sharing it, and then
Yeah.
yeah, off it goes. And yeah, I think it's like got like 3 million views now or something. It's
Yeah.
done really well.
Yeah. Crazy.
But yeah, it was just it really touched on a lot of subjects, and I think it's just an interesting thing to cover. Obviously, you know, when you look at like how women have been represented in movies, you know, we
Yeah.
on this channel before we've talked about some of our favorite characters, particularly in action and sci-fi movies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We've always referenced things like the Ellen Ripleys and the Sarah Connors, like
Right.
Marion from Indiana Jones, just like
Mhm.
these really feisty, interesting female characters that are still they're still flawed and human and realistic at the
Yeah.
same time. And I think the impression I got from your video is that, and I certainly agree with it, is that we've kind of lost that human aspect
Yeah.
in recent years, and there's just been this real concerted attempt to just portray women, especially if they're heroic characters, as just flawless and perfect, and they can just do anything.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. And I think that's it's such a like symptom of wokeness is that you think you have very black and white thinking about everything, that either you're a great person. So if you're, let's say you're a woman, let's say you're a woman of color, let's say you're a woman that's part of the LGBTQ community, then you're for sure like guaranteed an amazing person. But if you're a white man, then you're the absolute worst, you know? So it's like that perception of like if you're considered oppressed, then you must be perfect, and there's like a desire to infantilize you and treat you like a child, like, oh, you
Hmm.
need to be protected, like you need to be told you're amazing, you probably don't know that you're amazing, you probably need to be reminded of that. And it's actually like, I know it's meant to be empowering, but I actually find it so like so insulting. Like, you need to tell me how to live as a person because I happen to be a woman, or I happen to be an Indian woman, or which is my case, I'm an Indian woman, I'm an immigrant, so it's like, oh, that means you must be oppressed and mistreated. So, and then when you look at that on the screen, then that's exactly how they are. They're black and white, right? Like there's no nuance to the character. uh,
Hmm.
there's no possibility that they could be really good or really bad. As in like they're capable of both, right? And I think that's the reality of a person like you, the drinker. You're capable of doing amazing things, you're capable of doing terrible things. Like, that's what makes you a
And I
human
do
being.
regularly.
I think Tatiana knows all about
Yeah.
that one. But like, that's what it means to be a human person. Like, you're
Mhm.
not you're not like one dimensional.
Yeah, I think exactly as you said, you know, I guess like being a man doesn't automatically make you bad. You know,
Hmm.
being a woman or a person of color doesn't automatically make you a good person, or doesn't
Yeah.
automatically make you oppressed or anything. And like you say, there should be nuance to all of that.
Right.
But it
Right.
feels like there never is. And one of the things I've really picked up on is just the lack of struggle for a lot of these characters. Like, we've talked before, when you take someone like Rey from Star Wars, who just kind of breezes through every obstacle, like nothing really challenges her. And so when a character doesn't have that struggle, when they don't have an obstacle to overcome, I guess there's not really anything to latch onto. There's nothing to really empathize with, because there's nothing going on there. And so, I don't know, it just feels like a real foundational element of all these characters is missing. And if that's missing, there's nothing to really build on. And it's weird, because if you point it out, you're somehow labeled as being like, oh well, you just can't stand any strong female characters, or you can't stand to see any person of color doing anything good or anything like that. And it's like, no, all those things are perfectly fine, but you need to just still portray them as humans who have some kind of challenge to overcome. And I guess they don't get that, and that's the frustrating part of it.
And it's like, oh, you're used to seeing women struggling. You prefer them to struggle. Like, that's why you crave that, right? And it's like, no, that's not true at all. It's that things are interesting when you struggle, because there's like meaning behind that. There's a truth behind it. The video you made about why modern movies suck, they're written by children, and you talked about the conversation between Spock and why am I thinking Picard? It's not Picard.
Kirk.
There you go.
Yeah.
So Kirk and Picard, Kirk and Spock that entire exchange is so interesting. I hadn't seen that movie. I had to go back. I'm not a big Star Trekker, as you can guess, but I went back and watched that scene, because I think that was so fascinating. Is that here you have two friends, and they're defending their own ideals, and one of them could be right and wrong at the same time. Like, you don't know. Part of it is the struggle between them, and them willing to have that honest conversation. And it's the struggle between two friends standing across the table that makes it so fascinating. And women don't get that. And I do often come back to the scene from Lord of the Rings in the third movie, when Eowyn, wants to ride out into war, and she gets told that war is the province of men. And I think that's, first of all, that's true. Typically men are the ones who go to war. And even now, women have the freedom to go to war, but many choose not to. More men choose to go to war than women. And the fact that Eowyn chooses to go, and she's freaking frightened, like in that crowd, and her uncle is riling her up, right, convincing her to like ride to death. And like, I love that moment, because it's not like she's just like decides to go to war and it's easy. It's like, no, she's freaking scared, and she still does it. And then she still goes up against the Witch King, and she's frightened. Like, she's like staring at him, and she can't believe the size of him, or even the size of his weapon. Like, what does she have? And she still pushes through that. Like, and she obviously has help, because she's not capable of just doing it by herself, which most people are not capable of going up against a really big obstacle just by themselves, right? So I think that the realism of that is just so necessary. Like, I need to see that. I need to see that it's okay to be scared, because I'm someone who couldn't go to war. But what if I had to, for whatever reason? Hopefully not. But like, what if I had to? Could I do that? And could I be afraid? And is that okay?
Absolutely. And that makes her character so much stronger. Not the fact that she just throws herself into combat against this huge opponent that absolutely outmatches her in every way, and she just goes in without fear. That would just make her unrealistic. That would be boring to watch. But the fact that she's scared but does it anyway, that is the strength of character right there. That's what's inspiring, and that's what's awesome about it. And it applies to the male characters as well. Like, the hobbits throughout this are pretty much terrified of everything that they come across, but like their loyalty to each other and their commitment to what they have to do, it'll push them to do things way beyond what they should be capable of. Those are the hallmarks of strong characters and interesting characters that can push through that kind of thing. And like you say, if Lord of the Rings was done now, Eowyn would just lead the charge of the riders of Rohan, and she would be right there in the front line, killing 10 times as many orcs as anyone else. And it would be so dull to watch.
And she would be like telling Eomer, stop mansplaining to me about what war is.
Yeah, she would punch him or something and knock him off
Yeah.
his horse or something like that. I think this is, you're probably aware that there's a Lord of the Rings TV show coming out,
Yeah.
and a lot of us are just silently dreading it because we can see the way the winds are blowing these days, and we know what
Right.
they're going to do with it, and it's such a shame that that's what's going to happen to it.
Yeah, my
Uh,
friend who's, he's also he and I are both very obsessed with Lord of the Rings. He kept asking me, he's like, "Are you gonna watch it? Are we gonna watch it together?" And I said, "No, I don't think so. I feel like Lord of the Rings is one of those things that was just done so perfectly, which is so rare, and it was like done justice. And I just don't want anybody ruining that. And like those casting calls for nudity, I don't know if you saw that they were calling for actors to be in the
yeah.
nude, and I was like, that's not Lord of the Rings. Please don't do
No,
that.
that feels like Lord of the Rings trying to be Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And
Which
they're very
stop.
different
Just
stories,
stop.
different world. Yeah, exactly. You don't need
Yeah.
that. And it's weird because normally I I would never say like, oh, I don't want nudity in my shows. Like I'm not a prude with that kind of thing for sure. But like with Lord of the Rings, it doesn't feel like it needs it. Like it was never
Yeah.
about sex. And
Yeah.
the fact that they're trying to rely on that is just a real warning sign, I suppose.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly. And Game of Thrones, like nudity, you're right. Like it did fit that. It was like a gritty version of Lord of the Rings, and like far more detailed, far more gory. Okay, but Lord of the Rings is this like idealistic fantasy of like about honor and like doing the right thing and treating people properly. Like it's just totally different.
Yeah, I think they're generally, I think, divided into high and low fantasy. So the high fantasy would be the ones with like Lord of the Rings, with
Yeah.
elves and orcs and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and magic, and you know, um, Game of Thrones is generally like low fantasy because it's mostly just humans fighting each other, and yeah, there's a bit of magic that kind of comes in later, but
Yeah.
you don't really get elves or things like that so much in Game of Thrones. So
Yeah.
and what goes with that is also just the violence and sex and stuff, which is all great for what it is, but that's a different kind of show.
Yeah.
um but yeah, like I was just someone in chat mentioned Mulan, which is a really good
Mhm.
example, I think, of how they've changed something like this over the years, which was the original fight for the Chinese army, which is
Right.
fine. But she's a girl, she disguises herself as a man so she can serve, and as a result, she's kind of at a disadvantage physically, which is understandable. She's not as big or as strong as the others, and she struggles when she goes through the training. And she has to find other ways to succeed. She uses her mind
Right.
to be more resourceful than her colleagues,
Hmm.
and finds ways to compensate, I guess,
Yeah.
for certain disadvantages. And the movie's very honest about that. It's like, it's not saying that women are useless or weak or anything. It's just saying, yeah, they're not as big or as strong as men. So if they're trying to
Right.
compete against men on a level playing field, they are going to have a struggle physically.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
new movie, on the other hand, just says, yeah, Mulan's got really high levels of chi or whatever it is, which gives her just magical fighting abilities. And she's
Magic.
like the bestest fighter ever now. And so again, there's no struggle there to succeed, and there's no recognition of, hey, girls might be at a slight disadvantage on certain things, but they can still overcome, you
Hmm.
know. But now it's just like, yeah, you're just great to begin with. Like you say, it
Yeah.
goes back to that thing of trying to infantilize people and say, nah, you're perfect the way you are.
Yeah.
Um,
That you don't need to like work necessarily, that everything you're capable of is like already inside you. And I
yeah,
really hate that idea. I really, really hate that.
it's a crap thing to teach people in
Yeah.
life, because
Yeah.
in life you do have to work harder and you do have to better yourself in order
Right.
to succeed. And movies used to teach us that. Movies used to teach us the value of like hard work and determination and overcoming setbacks and
Right.
things like that. Now
Right.
they're about teaching you like, no, you will succeed just as you are. You don't need to improve.
Yeah.
And imagine you try and take those lessons and go out into the world, like, and
Hmm.
apply it to like your career or your education or whatever. Like you're gonna fail at
Yeah.
everything. Like that's an awful thing to teach
100%.
them. Yeah, and I think, why would you do that to people? That's really not a good thing to do.
Yeah. And you're setting up people to be really entitled, right, about their position. So if they fail, then they'll say, instead of saying like, hey, maybe I need to work on myself a little bit more, they'll say like, oh, it's the system, it's the patriarchy. They're trying to keep you down, versus like, oh, maybe it's your attitude, right? Maybe it's the fact that you haven't worked at your craft, and or you're like really rude and people pick up on that and they don't want to work with you. But with Mulan, like, I don't know why we're not allowed to say anymore that like men are far physically stronger than women. And I don't know why we're not like allowed to acknowledge that and be okay with that. Because for me, I feel like that's like a level that's a truth. And it's also like a level of protection for us, because there's an acknowledgement that men shouldn't try to compete with women in certain physical ways, because it could be dangerous for us. Like, this is a really random story, but like there was a party that we were hosting, my roommate and I, like a couple years back, were hosting, and one of the guys who showed up is this like cop, right? And he's like trying to flirt with me and decides to show me like how he would like frisk me or whatever. And it was like he suddenly just like grabbed my hand and was like pushing me up against a wall, and I was like very angry. I'm like a big prude, so I was like very angry right off the bat. But I'm like, dude, it's like you could actually break my arm in a second, because like obviously like police officers are like known to be rough with people. They have a rough job. Like, I'm just a dainty girl at a party, and I'm okay with that. I don't want to be treated like I work at the quarry like 24 hours a day or something. That's not who I am. I want to be treated with respect and not treated as if I'm like physically stronger than I actually am.
Yeah, I get what you mean. And it's a weird one, because to pick up on the point you made there about how it's almost like you can't say it in movies now, or point it out. Like it's one of those things that like everyone kind of recognizes.
Yeah.
But it's fine, like, because in daily life, like, I don't judge a person's worth based on like how heavy a thing they can lift.
Yeah.
Or whatever, that's not what's important. But it's almost like a matter of pride or something when it comes to writing movies and writing characters. It's like, well, we can't possibly imply that women are weaker than men, so we have to like construct these crazy scenarios where like a girl who weighs like 110 pounds can take on like 200-pound stuntmen and throw them around like rag dolls, and it's just ridiculous. Like, no one's going to buy into that. But say they do. Again, it goes back to what I was saying earlier about people taking these lessons to heart. Like, say some impressionable young girls watch things like that and think, oh yeah, cool, I could fight men if I had to. And like they're going to actually get into fights against dudes twice their size. They'll get killed, man. That's not a good thing to be teaching people. Like,
yeah. And I guess I didn't talk about this in the video, but like, it's this like weird, if we're trying to make men and women equal, what we're really doing though is saying that what capacities men have, or strengths men have, are superior to the capacities that women have. Like, why is, and you were saying this, like, why is brute strength so important? Is that really something that we value someone for? Like, we would in a particular situation, like if it's someone's fighting in the UFC or whatever, or if it's like certain Olympic sports, you value that. But do you value that day to day? Does that impact your success in life? Not really. But there's like strength that women have that now it's like, if you value that strength of, let's say, emotional strength, like the ability, like, okay, a good example is A Quiet Place, right? Like, in that movie, have you seen that movie?
No, I know the story. Like, I know the plot of it.
Okay, so it's like John, I forget the names. Maybe we are never even told the names of the characters now that I think about it. But like with John and Emily's character, like John Krasinski and Emily Blunt's character, they're both really strong and capable in their own way. But like Emily Blunt's character chooses to have a child and give birth at a time that is incredibly dangerous to do that. Like, women have been doing that obviously for eons, but like doing that in a situation like that where you can't even make a sound, and she chooses to do that and chooses to make sure she has children, so that's the priority, right? And she even says that to John, like, if the kids aren't safe, like, what are we doing? What else matters if not our future? And that level of strength to put something else before you and take care of that and like go through so much intense pain. And like we just don't value that anymore. We say like the whole fact that women can raise kids, like you probably would feel uncomfortable saying that as a man, right? Like you would probably be attacked a ton for saying that as a man. Whereas at least as a woman, I can say that, but like, why don't we value that? Because that takes like unbelievable strength to do that. And I'm not saying like a woman's place is in the house or anything, or in the office. I'm saying it's like up to her, but like we have to stop saying that what men do is superior to what women do. So we have to be in the office, like we have to be CEOs, like, or we have to be so strong that we're beating people up. It's like, no, there are different types of strength in the world.
Yeah, this is a point of view that I've actually heard a lot from a lot of different people about. You know, those aspects that are kind of unique to like the feminine side of characters, whether it's, you know, compassion, endurance, like the ability to like go through the pain of childbirth, all those things that are kind of uniquely female are really devalued in modern movies. And what they do instead is they essentially just make women into men, with the same attitudes and the same desire to like to conquer and dominate, and it always feels really false, like it doesn't ring true for me. And I don't know if some of it is born out of this just really simplistic idea of like, well, the kind of movies that make the most money are the big action movies and the comic book superhero things, and so that's what we need to focus on, and so that's what we need to put our female characters into. And when those are the kind of movies that they're in, they've got no option but to be strong and kick ass and you know beating people up and all that sort of thing, because the kind of movies that you would get that would exemplify all those feminine qualities would be more serious, like more reserved kind of movies that just wouldn't make the same kind of money. And I don't know if that's part of the rationale behind it, or if it's just this desire to say, no, women and men are exactly the same, and there's no distinction between them, of course. Like, you know, and don't think about it. Just watch the movie. I don't know, because maybe it varies between studios, and maybe there's different reasons for it, but the result is the same. It means the construction of characters that you can't really believe in. And you know, a movie that Muller and I have certainly talked about before that combines those two ideas would be something like the Terminator franchise, where you had Sarah Connor, who's a mother, and so her main objective in the second movie is to protect her son, and so she has to transform herself into this soldier in order to be able to do that. So she's a strong character that's capable of fighting if need be. But she's doing it for that maternalistic drive to protect. And I think that's an interesting merging of those two ideas in a character. But you don't often get that now, because the whole idea of like female characters as mothers is very pared down now. A Quiet Place is probably a real outlier in that trend.
Absolutely.
It's just it's a strange way of doing it. And there was something that you mentioned in your video that really stood out to me. It was when you're talking about how these writers construct characters like Captain Marvel or Rey or whoever. There's a real kind of bitterness to how they write them, and the result is that you get two strands to this. One, you've got the female character who is really obnoxious and entitled and kind of domineering. And at the same time, they take the male characters and they make them kind of weak and a bit useless and pathetic. And so it makes it easier for the female characters to take the lead and just kind of dominate every situation they're in. And I guess that's one of the things that becomes really frustrating as well. Like, I'm fine with the idea that you can write really strong, assertive female characters. You don't have to make the male characters weak at the same time. Like, why not have them balance each other out nicely? It's like that's not allowed anymore, because if you have a male character who is strong and assertive and confident, that's somehow considered toxic now, and so that can't be allowed. And so it's doubly frustrating, I guess, as a storyteller and just an audience member to see that.
With that interview that Brie Larson did, where she was sitting with Chris Hemsworth, and it's like that famous interview where she like she gets asked, like, is there competition between you guys, like, and who's the strongest, right?
Yeah.
And I actually think of that moment a lot because I keep like trying to understand like what was running through her mind, because she was like pissed. She was pissed that people were not accepting that she was the strongest. And I think like all joking aside is fine, but she was actually taking it really personally. And like Charisma on Command did a really good video dissecting that moment. But I think it's that same idea, is that, okay, a woman is a strong character, but that she can't be challenged. Like that fact just needs to be accepted. Like, yes, you are great. And that's what she was hoping for in that moment, I think, where they would be like really pandering to her and be like, yeah, you are the most powerful. And they wouldn't do that. Instead, they were doing what men do, or competitive men or competitive women do, which is that if you put up a challenge, they're going to step up to it, and you have to earn your way out of that. We can't just like stand aside and let you have that. And so this like whole thing of like, okay, there's going to be a strong female character, and then the man is going to be completely useless and completely just pander to her the whole time. And one of my favorite movies, I think, of like recent years is Edge of Tomorrow, because it's like you have a really strong female character, but you also have a really strong male character who like starts off weak and actually earns his position to her, and she never like panders to him or looks down on him. She's instead challenges him and challenges him to reach her level, and he does that, and he actually goes beyond that, right? And even then, there's no frustration or anything like that from her side, like this like immature perspective that someone might take, like, oh, I'm being bested. And I think that's another thing, is like I find is that women are now looked at, they're actually like quite immature. They're not they are like getting into pissing matches, which is not something you usually said when like women were challenging each other. You never talked of them of like having pissing matches with each other. Like the James Bond movie is a good example, where the new 007 initially was like challenging him and like immediately giving him, attitude. And I'm glad they really toned that down, because that was kind of annoying. It's like,
yeah.
Those
reshoots happen for a reason, I suspect.
Yes. I don't know how much Waller-Bridge had to do with that, but hopefully she came in and was like, let's not do that. Or maybe she was the problem. Who knows?
I mean, she's an interesting one, right? Because sorry to take this off as a tangent, but
No,
like I watched I think the first 2 seasons of Killing Eve. I hadn't really seen Fleabag. I'd seen bits and pieces of it. It wasn't quite my thing, but with Killing Eve, that was obviously a very female-centric show. And I think one of the things I picked up on was just not just that, but like basically none of the men are allowed to really do anything in it. They're either incompetent, or they get killed, or they're evil. And so there's not really any kind of like positive heroic male character to look up to. And it's fair enough, because like I guess it's more of a female-centric show, and maybe it's even designed for a female audience. I think the fact that it was kind of an espionage comedy drama thing would have drawn men in initially, but like, clearly it just didn't seem like it was for them.
I couldn't get into Killing Eve. I saw like a couple episodes and I couldn't get into it, but I actually really like Fleabag, but I could totally understand why it's not your thing, because I think what Phoebe's really good at is writing like really messy emotion. And I think that's well suited for the type of characters that she writes, which are like primarily female characters. She writes that really well. But in Fleabag, like everybody is just as lost as she is. And that's the kind of take that she has. Like the men aren't really strong in it, but neither are the women. It's like everybody's kind of lost. And that's like a very like modern approach to writing characters, which is that there's no typical arc. There's no like hero's journey. And I'm very partial to the hero's journey. If I don't get a hero's journey out of a movie, I'm very pissed. for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, why was I here? Yeah.
It's weird because I've heard a lot of criticism for the hero's journey recently, with
Yeah.
people saying like, well, it's very formulaic and it's just like psychology 101 and stuff. But like, particularly if you're dealing with, say, a big budget movie that's just there to please mass audiences, the hero's journey is just the most efficient way of doing that. It
Yeah.
plays on like your basic human need for certain things in a story, and
Yeah.
it satisfies them. Like, yeah, I can totally get you. You don't need to use it every time,
Right.
and if you're doing something a bit more experimental or whatever, you can take different parts away, you can substitute other things in, whatever, it's fine. But yeah,
Mhm.
I very much still appreciate seeing it. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's nice when you see it and it's been done in a little creative way or whatever, but you're like, yep, that's hitting all the beats that I'm looking for.
Yeah,
Perfect.
exactly. And I think it is a bit so like from a psychological perspective, w- if a person believes that they're living out their life as if they're living out a hero's journey, and then can say to themselves, and like when they're in a really hard time, they can actually think about like their form of heroes, whoever that might be. Like maybe it's Luke Skywalker, maybe it's like a biblical figure, whatever. That you, if you can draw strength from those people experiencing really hard times, then you can get through your difficult times much more
Yeah.
effectively than, let's say, you had a take that said hero's journey doesn't matter, right? Or maybe you say life doesn't matter, nothing matters. And you're going through life and you're having a really hard time. You're like, nothing matters. Why should I fix anything? Why should I do anything about it? I'm just, life sucks. I'm gonna drink all day and I'm gonna like smoke out, smoke weed all day, like whatever. cheers, cheers to that. But uh, if that's you're gonna be your take, then you're gonna have a really terrible experience. But if you say, I'm a hero, I'm going to be inspired by these people. And that's why I think people go to the movies, like, is to feel like a catharsis, like to see someone struggle and get through it, because they have shit to get back to. That is a really big struggle. And people
Yeah.
draw strength from that. Like, I think not giving people that is why then people feel dissatisfied.
I think so, yeah, very much. And it goes back to, I guess, the thing I was saying earlier about teaching people lessons from
Mm-hmm.
storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the you take a movie like Rocky, for example, where he's got a huge obstacle to overcome. He has to fight the heavyweight champion of the world, and he knows
Yeah.
he can't do it. He's just a bum,
Yeah.
but he's determined to at least just stay on his feet and go the distance and not get knocked down by this guy, or
Right.
not stay down.
Right.
And that is just a metaphor for life, for
Yeah.
how life will knock you down with obstacles, with tragedies, with setbacks.
Mm-hmm.
And it's your ability to get up and keep moving forward and taking those hits in life that gets you through.
Mm-hmm.
And films like that teach you that you can do that. And you might not always win in the normal sense.
Yeah.
Like in his first movie, Rocky doesn't win, he gets beat. But
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. Like, he did his thing of not staying down, of making it to the end. And that was
Mm-hmm.
all he wanted. And that was a victory for him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's important. And that's a real lesson that people can take from it. And it's things that motivate people, things
Yeah.
like that like you say, it gives them that strength to keep going through the hard times in their own lives.
Yeah.
Whereas if you take a lot of these modern films that give you these characters that don't have a struggle and are just great right off the bat and just kind of win at everything, what do you do then when you start losing at things?
Yeah.
You're going to think, well, this never happened to Ray. This never happened to Captain Marvel. Shit, man, what do I do? I'm just I'm not like them. And that's then they don't become a thing to aspire to. They just become an unattainable goal that you could never have reached. And
Yeah.
so they don't help you. They don't inspire anyone. And I guess that's the difference. And it's not about saying, oh, well, these characters are female, so they've got to be portrayed as weak or struggling or whatever. It's like, this is basic characters. This is struggles that any character should go through. This is the building blocks of what makes us who we are.
That's
And to
right.
take that away just takes the humanity out of them. It's such a loss. It's such a wasted opportunity.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. If you don't mind, I wanted to go back to something you had mentioned about the female strength and how you can't really represent that, because if you're looking at, like big blockbusters and you're showing action heroes. Um, what I actually, one of the characters I really love from the Marvel series is the Scarlet Witch.
Mhm.
And I actually thought that she was a great display of feminine strength, because of like the emotional struggles that she goes through. I think like the two characters that go through a lot of emotional struggle are probably Thor, like he has a lot of loss, and
Mhm.
then Scarlet Witch. Of course, there are others too, but like Scarlet Witch loses her brother, right? She's lost her parents. She doesn't really have a home. She doesn't really have any land. She's like, you know, an augmented person, and then developing all this strength, but then also falling in love with Vision, which I know a lot of people didn't like that love story, but I actually found it very interesting. And then losing Vision, but like not just losing Vision, but having to choose to kill him for the sake of humanity. And I think
Mhm.
that kind of strength to be able to do that, to be able to, I mean, I love that end scene so much too, that she like by herself is holding off Thanos
Yeah.
while killing the love of her life. Like I think that like level of strength that it takes to do something like that. And I love that they even followed it up with what was that show? WandaVision.
WandaVision. See, I very much agree in terms of the movie version of Scarlet Witch.
Hmm.
They absolutely put her through that. You know, she is a person with these crazy abilities that she doesn't
Yeah.
understand. She's just kind of been thrown into it. She becomes like the center of the civil war amongst the
Hmm.
Avengers. Um, and yeah, like you say, she's ultimately forced to sacrifice Vision, like the
Hmm.
person that she loves most.
Yeah.
Like you say, whether you buy into the romance between them doesn't matter. It's a
Right.
person that she
She
deeply
loves.
cares about, and circumstances force her to do that. And
Hmm.
it's not really about how hard she can punch or like how dangerous she is in combat. It's like she's presented with just a very difficult choice as a character, and
Yeah.
that's what she's forced to do.
Yeah.
I think the show, you know, the show went a little bit off the rails towards the
Yeah.
end because it's you know, it shows her doing some pretty horrific things to like an
Hmm.
entire town of people, and then tries to frame her as a hero,
Hmm.
which kind of, yeah, it kind of undermines her character for me at least. But within the movies, the context of the movies, yeah, I absolutely agree. Like I think she's a pretty interesting character in that way.
Yeah.
Um, and you
I
know,
agree. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
uh, yeah, yeah, it's kind of, it's a similar story with Black Widow, who's a pretty interesting character within the mainline films.
Hmm.
Um, kind of, I again, they took that all apart when she's in her own movie,
Yeah.
because she suddenly becomes really dumb, and it's all about, well, again, it's about reinforcing that message that she's just a kind of pawn being controlled by an abusive man,
Hmm.
and she has to break free of that. But the film set her up as a much more interesting character who's kind of got her own agency and chose to, you know, she had this murky past. She
Yeah.
tried to put that behind her. She joined the Avengers, but she's still haunted by the things that she's done. I think those are interesting aspects to her.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
the
And the movie, yeah, and the movie completely destroyed that. I thought the legacy of like specifically Age of Ultron was written really well. I know a lot of people didn't love that movie, but I thought like overarchingly, like they kept using the word monster in that movie over and over, where everybody kind of was starting to look at themselves as monsters. And then when Black Widow says it to Bruce, where she says,
mhm,
do you think you're the only monster on this team? When she talks about the fact that she can't have children. And people got really upset at that. They got
yeah,
really upset that, oh, does that mean if a woman can't have children, she's a monster? But it was like, no, wait, like this is about the fact that something was like taken from her and that she like had to agree to do to become, like to fulfill her training, and how she looks at that she's she can't create life, she can only take life, and that's
mhm,
it. That's her entire purpose in life. And I thought that her redemption was also her falling in love with someone like Bruce. Again, people didn't really like that, but I thought that was also a very interesting take, that she says, oh, here are my friends, like they're all killers, and here's a man who walks away from a fight because he knows he'll win it every time. And I thought that is such a great reason for her to like really be attracted to someone, because he knows he's capable of doing terrible things to people in like in an uncontrollable way, and he doesn't he wants to control that. He wants to learn how to control that. And that's everybody's capable of doing terrible things, and they learn to control that, and that's what makes them a good person, right? Like, so she being attracted to that kind of monster, right, who wants to stay away from the fight, like, I thought that was so cool that it was like a reflection of how even she was trying to stop what, like, the monster inside her.
I think it's almost like I'm trying to think how to frame this. It's like a sort of exaggerated version of the classic kind of literary concept of man and woman, in that men are kind of dangerous and aggressive and domineering, and perhaps the women are more gentle and compassionate and nurturing almost, and those two things balance each other out, and that's what you kind of get with that relationship, I suppose, that she is the one who's able to calm him down, like when he's in that rage state where he's not even thinking, he's not able to think or anything like that. He's become like the Hulk. He's this big destructive beast,
Right.
And she's the only one who's able to get him to stop that,
Which is
and
very like Beauty and the Beast-esque.
it's the same exact idea, yeah. And
Yeah.
like I say, both of those stories are just an exaggerated idea of what men and women are in their sort of fundamental natures. It's not to say that men are all like in mindless beasts and women are just these gentle little flowers, but like you get the idea. Like that's the kind of way that they differ slightly, and those two things kind of complement each other ultimately.
Right.
Instead of what you get now in storytelling, where they're almost put in competition with each other.
Yeah.
But
Instead of being
only
like
one
foils.
side.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Like it's meant to be a collaboration, not a competition, I suppose. And that's what you lose now. And like I say, it's a real shame, because all it does is set people against each other, I think.
Yeah.
Men watch movies like that, or movies like, the bad ones, I guess, like Star Wars or Captain Marvel, whatever. They get kind of pissed off and resentful, like, why are we getting portrayed as idiots?
Yeah.
And I feel like women perhaps don't get that much out of it anyway, because they're like, well, I don't see myself represented here. This is some weird parody of what a woman is. And it's just like, I'm just seeing a man with boobs basically on screen. It's not something I can relate to. And so like neither side really comes away happy from it. I don't know.
Yeah. I get more out of, like, I genuinely got more out of second season of Fleabag than I did from like Captain Marvel. Right. And I think like with Fleabag, coming back to that, like the fact that she showed, because the storyline is really interesting. I'm going to give it away to you because I really don't think you'll find it interesting. But the storyline is that Fleabag, the main character, which they never really give her a name, she sleeps with her best friend's boyfriend. And when the boyfriend is like breaking up with her best friend, the best friend just like walks in front of a bus. So this like happens, and we don't know about it, and we are now dealing with Fleabag afterwards. And it's like her complete utter mess of a life, from her sort of trying to recognize that she did something really fucking terrible to her best friend, which resulted in her committing suicide. And like, I think that actually speaks to me more. Not that I would hopefully never do something like that to someone, but the fact that we all have like that dark charisma in us, like where we can do something and betray someone else, right? But also like mistakes that we've made, and how do we live with that? How do you overcome that and like grow out of it? Versus like Captain Marvel, like the whole crux of it was, you're too, I don't even know, like you're too emotional. Like you need to learn to control your emotions.
I don't know what that movie was trying to say. Like to this day, like it's almost like you're too awesome or something, and like the world's not ready for how good you are. I don't know. Like I don't know what her struggle to overcome was. I certainly never got a sense that she was too emotional in that movie. Quite
Not
the
at
opposite,
all.
in fact.
Yeah.
That
You
was
never
the
see
easy.
her lose control. Yeah.
I know. I think that must have been the easiest acting gig that Brie Larson ever did. It's like I don't have to show a single facial expression the whole movie. It's easy. Um, there, there was another thing that you picked up on, and again, sorry for jumping around, but when you talked about characters like Holdo from Star Wars, there's never a reckoning for them, and there's never like they're never held to task for the bad
Yeah.
decisions that they've made, which
Yeah.
again is a frustrating thing to see, because if you took her from that movie, and if at the end of it she'd said to Paul, for example, "Man, I was totally wrong about you. Should have trusted you. Should have told you everything. Now I've put everyone in danger. Um, let me try and atone for this." That's when she
Right.
sacrifices herself.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, it's not great, but like it's something. Then it's a character arc for her, and you would feel bad for her at least a little bit. Like, oh, okay, she was misguided and she made a bad call, but she recognizes it, and
Yeah.
she's atoning for it. But in the movie, it's like she's portrayed as this wise hero that should be celebrated. It's like, no, she's just like a horrible person that really made terrible decisions throughout the entire film.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't a good person. But
Mm-hmm.
it's weird. It's like there's just this inability to even criticize them in the slightest way.
Yeah. And when she talks to Leia later on, she sees him. I guess I don't know if he's like knocked out or something. I can't recall, but she says to Leia, like, "Oh, I like him." And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, so, but why were you such a dick to him the whole time? Like, it was it's the way she immediately insults him is what really bothered me, because a lot of people, when they comment on the video about Holdo, they're like, hey, she's a general, or I forget what her title is, but like she needs to lay out the orders and they all need to listen, and that's
Mhm.
it. And it's like, yeah, fine, that's okay, but why does she need to insult him when he's just asking what the plan is? Why does that immediately need to jump to putting someone in their place versus saying, like,
Yeah.
giving some kind of like mature response?
Yeah, 100%. I sort of did a breakdown video on this, on
I remember
why,
that.
like, even if you just looked at her as a purely a military leader,
Mm-hmm.
she's absolutely horrendous. Like she sees only the worst in people, and
Mm-hmm.
as a result, she brings out the worst in them. She doesn't trust her subordinates. She openly berates them and insults them in front of the crew, which is something you would never do as an officer.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like again, like it's not like he's berating her. It's not like he's disrespecting her or anything, saying like, "Who the hell do you think you are? I don't have to take
Yeah.
orders from you, asshole." He's like, "Yeah, cool. Like, I'm on board with this. Just tell me the plan, and I'll do what I can to help." And she's like,
Yeah.
"Huh? Plan? You want to know information, do you? You fucking asshole!" And like, you just berates him for just asking a question. It's like, where's this even coming from? Like, it's like you're going out of your way to be the biggest asshole possible.
Yeah.
Weird.
Like, how dare
Um,
you ask for transparency in a time of crisis? Like, how dare
Yeah,
you?
yeah, totally. Like, yeah, imagine one of my senior officers wanting to know what the plan is so he can help facilitate it. God,
Yeah.
won't have that kind of behavior in my ship.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's really crazy.
Yeah. I
Um,
think, okay, another thing that really bothered me about the writing for the men, though, in the Star Wars series. So, in in the last movie where Poe shows up at the base and he's just like running to Rey and starts having an argument with her about something like stupid. Like, they argue for like 10 minutes about something really stupid, where like Rey's like, I'm right, and Poe's like, no, I'm right. And
yeah,
the next second he reveals that they have like 16 hours before some giant, like, world ending thing is about to go off. Sorry, I don't remember a lot of the details, but I couldn't believe, like, you're arguing for 10 minutes when you have 16 hours to stop some death like weapon. Why are like the men shown as so stupid? Like, he would not do that. Poe would not do that. He would prioritize the fact that he has really grave news for the base.
I think this was poor old J.J. Abrams trying to compensate for the fact that these two characters had literally never met each other until the very end of the last movie, so they had nothing in the way of history. And
Yeah.
so now he's like, "Oh, we got to establish a relationship." Like they're kind of like boyfriend and girlfriend arguing over stuff. Yeah, like they're bickering like lovers, but like
Yeah.
they've got no history, no chemistry,
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like you say, it's just totally out of place. It's a real time waster for what's actually going on.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's him desperately trying to construct a movie out of like the ashes of the previous one.
Yeah.
And it's there's nothing to work with there.
No. And they
It's
did
really weird.
Finn really dirty in that. Like they really mistreated his character.
They, yeah, he was such a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Like we've, on various streams we've talked about this before. How this is a guy who was a stormtrooper. He's taken from his parents
Yeah.
when he was a little kid, um, indoctrinated into this military, just become like a mindless killing machine, and somehow found a way to break that programming and think for himself and escape.
Yeah.
You'd think there would be a lot to work with there as a
Right.
character, a lot of darkness to him,
Hmm.
traumatic memories, flashbacks to the things he was forced to do.
Hmm.
But instead, no, he's just goofy kind of figure of fun. We just make fun of him. He's always getting stunned or knocked over, or he's staggering around in his like suit thing that's spraying water everywhere, and he's just a goofy comedy relief, and it's such a wasted thing for a character.
Yeah. And he's just like he's like Ray's puppy, just trying to tell her something, which we never find out what, but just like constantly trying to tell her something. It's just like,
Yeah,
dude, she
like
has shit to do.
yeah. People have said like, oh, he was about to tell her that he's got the force or something. It's like, oh, fuck off. Like he was going to tell
God.
her that he's got the hots for her, but then they
Probably.
aborted that whole thing, and like they're just
Yeah.
frenzies because it's weird. Like you can't even have like a proper romance in these movies now because I don't know, it's offending someone.
Yeah. Yeah. It's too cisgender for them or whatever.
I think
Yeah.
so, yeah. Like it's bizarre.
Yeah.
But yeah, the result is just loads of wasted opportunities with promising characters. You could have done
Yeah.
so much with them. I think the way I described the characters in a movie like Last Jedi is all the male characters act like stereotypical females. All the negative stereotypes that you would have of women, that they're overly emotional, or they're short-sighted or impulsive or insecure. That's all the men in that
Mm.
movie.
Hmm.
Like what's his name? Hux is just a goofy clown, and he's worried because he's losing his place, and he's shouting at people and screaming and losing his temper all the time, and
Yeah.
just getting knocked over and humiliated, all that stuff. Same with Kylo Ren. Like he's just really angry. He's always like smashing things because he can't control himself. That's not an intimidating bad guy. An
No.
intimidating bad guy is the one who's cold and methodical and ruthless. You
Yeah.
know, um,
And it's
like
so. Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say, no, like Darth Vader in the originals. Like when someone failed him, he didn't he
Yeah.
didn't scream and rant and rave. He would just like put his hand out and like snap their neck or whatever, or choke them to death with the Force. That was it. He just didn't
Yeah.
lose his temper. He's just like, yeah, you fail me, you die. Like try and do better next time. you know?
Yeah. And they had like good talent to work with because Oscar Isaac is really good. Adam Driver, he's a good actor. And so is even the guy who plays Hux. Like, did you ever see that movie with Oscar Isaac and the guy who plays Hux? It's that movie it's about like artificial intelligence. Deus Ex Machina? No.
Oh yeah,
Like
Deus Ex.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah, no, I've seen bits and pieces of it. I never watched it all the way through. I
It's
mean, Oscar
you would
Isaac is a good actor, though. I
yeah,
do like him.
but you would love that movie. That movie is like true cinema. It's like actually a well-made like character movie, which is so rare these days. You don't get like a good character-based movie anymore.
No, no,
Yeah,
it's not mainstream ones.
yeah,
I've talked with Gary and Mahler and stuff about this. Like everything's been kind of swallowed up by comic book movies,
yeah.
and as much as they've been awesome and they've given us some great entertainment, man, I kind of feel like they're coming to the end of their run now.
Yeah, just probably for the best because let's have something different. But okay, I'm gonna ask you a question, but I'm sure the answer is no. Have you watched Sex in the City?
I'm not really an avid Sex and the City viewer, but I've
I
got a feeling
figured.
I know what this is leading into. It's
Because
just like
yes,
that, isn't it?
and just like that, yeah. So I think I'm gonna make a video about this because I was thinking about it's one of the things you were talking about earlier about how like the idea of motherhood is not something like you know is not showcased as much anymore, right? Like it's actually considered kind of sexist to say like a woman would set aside her life to have a child and prioritize a child. And Sex in the City, sort of started, I don't know if they started it, but like they really showcased that. Like one of the three women in that show, two of the three women, four women have a child, but one of them is like very reluctant about it, and the rest are like, why would you have a child, kind of thing. And every family that has a child on that show, like even just like ancillary characters, are always dicks. They're always shown as being really rude. How dare you prioritize your child? The child is always looked at as like a little monster. And it's like, it's this like tyranny by family kind of perspective, which is just really weird.
No, it's interesting you bring that show up. There's two things I was going to mention there. First of all, is the author, because I'm sure I read an article about this. The author who wrote the original books that Sex and the City got adapted from, who really, like, I think she lived that same lifestyle as Carrie Bradshaw. That she, she didn't really have a family, and so she just, lived the high life in New York, went out and partied, and it was all about a career and just like drinking glamorous, cocktails in lovely places and stuff. Great. But now she's like in her late 50s, and she's like kind of lonely and divorced, and she's like, oh, I really regret all of this, and I wish I'd had kids. And it's like just this absolute moment of revelation that I read this article where she was just like really regretful of the choices that she'd made.
Yeah.
But it's like you were instrumental in a whole generation of people embracing this lifestyle, thinking like, I can just party my entire life and pretend like I'm a teenager until I'm in my 50s. It's like, no, it doesn't work like that. Like eventually you're going to age out of it, and you're going to realize like all those things that were so fun when you were in your 20s are kind of shallow and pointless now. And like the things that you find real fulfillment in, like having a family and someone to share your life with and grow old with and have companionship with, when you don't have that, it's all just a bit empty and meaningless. And it's like, wow, I can't believe people don't know this. It's really weird. Like, it's like, why are they not realizing this earlier?
Or that you can't say that like, oh, you'll struggle in life if you choose not to have a family. Like,
it just seems obvious. It's like,
it seems so obvious. Yeah.
This is why we have different stages of our lives. Your teens, your 20s, that's just for partying and having fun. Great. Like, but there comes a point where you kind of have to think about settling down if you want to do it. And, getting married or having children, starting a family, because that's the stuff that's going to give you real comfort and enjoyment and fulfillment when you're older, in the latter stages of your life.
Right.
And it just seems like an obvious thing. I don't know why, like, people think you can do it another way. Like, you're not going to live forever. You're not going to be able to have children forever. That's life. That's nature.
Yeah. And I think the real character that pushed that was, the character of Samantha, because it glorified the idea of being a female, sexually free, never deciding to sort of settle down kind of person. And a lot of the criticisms, like a lot of the criticisms that I see of people criticizing that character is that, oh, you're okay with the idea of a confirmed bachelor when it comes to men, right? Like, men aren't called spinsters. Women are called old spinsters, but men are considered, confirmed bachelors, or like the Hugh Hefners of the world. But I would argue that they're okay, fine. If you're really, really rich, then you're called a confirmed bachelor if you're not married. But really, if you are an old man at a club, no one likes you. No one is like,
yeah, there's always those weird guys who are like 45 years old and like they're in nightclubs like wearing like young guys' clothes and stuff. It's like, nah, you can't do this anymore, man.
You're a grown child at that point. Like,
yeah, I think, I think the same things apply to men. Like, maybe men get a little bit longer because, I guess, like,
they can procreate longer. Like, they can into their 60s, 70s,
Yeah, exactly. They probably shouldn't want to, because fucking what man wants to be getting up in the middle of the night to change a diaper when he's like 50 years old or whatever? But
well, he's probably getting up to go to the bathroom anyway, so
yeah, exactly.
Change the diaper.
But yeah, even men, I think there comes a point where most of them could or should probably think about starting a family and settling down. Like,
Yeah.
unless they're one of those people that just knows straight up, like, I don't need that, I don't want that for my life, I am just happy being single forever.
Yeah.
Okay, there's always going to be people like that, but
Right.
most of us aren't. Most of us do want someone to share our lives with.
Right.
Um, and yeah,
Yeah.
like it probably just even gets harder to date people and meet people when you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s. Like,
Yeah,
people get married,
absolutely.
they've kind of already settled down by then.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think I guess for women it's a little bit different because, you know, beyond like 35, 40, you're going to find it a lot harder to have children anyway. So
Yeah.
like you kind of have to be a little bit more on it, I suppose, and a bit more organized about when you're going to settle down and do this stuff.
Yeah, and so that's 100% my experience, because I was single for a very, very long time. Now I'm engaged and getting married in a few months.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It felt very weird though, because I think like I really bought into Sex in the City, kind of like, living up the life, like living in a city, and my roommate and I used to really get into like enjoying that aspect of our lives, like where, and we used to like sort of joke around, like say like we're forever single, and like there were four of us that were kind of like single for a very long time. And now, you know I started to see just like how hollow that is. It gets very, very hollow. And I think San Francisco is one of those places where people can stay children forever. Like it's like Peter Pan land. Like you don't need to grow up in San Francisco. You could be whatever you want. And it's terrible. Like, and the men you meet here too are like, they don't want to grow up. They want you to help them stay children forever. And it's
Yeah.
really creepy. It's really weird. Um, and I realized, like, okay, if I don't get my act together, like I'm going to be one of those people. I'm going to be one of those people that doesn't have meaning in my life. And I was lucky enough to meet my fiance and like outside of San Francisco, thank God. And now I'm getting married, but like it took a long time for me to also like accept that like it's not just it's we. And that whole thing of like not being selfish anymore and living just for myself. And I think that's part of like the Sex and City messaging is like, hey, what's wrong with being selfish forever and just living for yourself? And it's like, no, it is actually like gets really hollow after a while. Like you can't just live for yourself, or you can do it for a couple years and then you have to look beyond that.
I think so, and that's why like most people, I guess in the past at least, like they would accept that like there's stages of your life.
Mhm.
There's a point in your life for just partying and having fun and having no responsibilities. Great. But eventually that has to give way to a different stage. And
Yeah.
that's like when you start to find someone, you settle down and you I guess you when you start a family, like you do all the things, like you get a house, you get a car, whatever else,
Mhm.
you start having responsibilities. But I think, and I said this to Shad when he was on from Shadiversity, responsibilities I think are one of the things that give your life meaning, because then it becomes more about just you and what you find enjoyable or pleasurable or whatever. It's like, well,
Mhm.
I've got other people who kind of depend on me, whether it's a partner, whether it's children or whatever, but like their happiness and like how they are in life is dependent on the choices I make. And so that's my responsibility, but that gives me meaning because
Yeah.
I'm now, helping to bring the next generation forward. They're going to, eventually come up and they'll make their own lives and stuff. But that's on me. But that's a hell of a responsibility. But it's a good responsibility because you get a sense of fulfillment for having done it.
That's right.
Um, and
Yeah.
it's one of those things where I guess you take the long view because it's like you have to think forward to say, well, eventually I'm going to be an old person and I'm going to, I'm not going to have my job anymore. I'm not going to worry about my career, and going out and having like glamorous cocktail parties and all that, and go to nightclubs. Like that's not really something I can do anymore. And so, like, I'll find my fulfillment and my enjoyment in other things.
Yeah.
And like you say, all those other things are great little enjoyments at a stage in your life, but they're kind of just surface level and they're kind of hollow. And yeah, like imagine, I don't know, say you work some great job and you've got loads of money and you travel to like great far flung places, and you take loads of nice pictures that you could put on Instagram, and you get some likes. So fucking what? You're on your own. There's no one to share it with. It doesn't matter, and it'll be
Yeah.
forgotten as quickly as people scroll to the next account.
Yeah.
That's how meaningless it is. But that's how so many people seem to live their lives, and it's just weird for
Yeah.
me.
And it's like another one of those one-dimensional characters that you put out into the world and you say, oh, this is who I really am, and people give you likes for that, and like then you
Yeah.
ignore like all the parts of you that are actually real. And like everybody will say like, oh, Instagram isn't real, but like, are you really aware of that? Are you really aware of like your own flaws when you're, you know, putting up touched up anyway, I'm sounding too prescriptive, sorry about that. But one of the things you were talking about kids, my brother had a baby recently, like a year ago, and I realized just even what a change it made in me, because it's like I didn't want to be my just like my like whatever self. I wanted to actually like meet her and for her to get to know me in a way that was like a higher version of me. And like, so I wanted to fix certain things about myself. I didn't want to be like this cursing person in front. I curse like a sailor all the time, but like in front of her though.
You've not done a single time on this stream. I'm really disappointed.
I try not to do it online. My mom and the very Indian person in me is like, do whatever, just don't do it that it's like memorialized somewhere. Like no one should ever see you, you know, doing bad stuff, but do bad stuff just in private.
No, that's fair enough. Like most of my embarrassing things are done in public, but you know, that's a whole different thing.
But if
But
you
yeah, I feel
don't
like
remember them, then it's okay.
exactly, yeah. Like if I get caught on CCTV or anything like that, that's a different story. But you know, I won't swear to it in court.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you know, obviously we got sidetracked with this, but like these are kind of they all tie in, I guess, to the conversation we've been having about like how these various characters are portrayed and in movies, and yeah, it feels like we're being sold a lie, I guess, in a lot of ways with modern films. And yeah, I don't know how to. I don't really know how to make it stop. I don't know what it's going to take. You know, for
Yeah. I I guess, yeah, I think that was one of my questions, was like, if I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it. Like if woke, you know, that whole statement of like go woke, go broke,
Mhm.
why are companies still continuing to pursue that messaging?
I think it's a combination of once you let people like that into your studio or your company or
Mm.
whatever, because like the people who do the actual writing for these movies and TV shows, they are 100% like activists who don't care about anything except the message. And so those people are very difficult to get rid of because you know they're like weeds in your garden, like they get everywhere, and you can't just fire them because they know exactly how to make a fuss on social media and make it seem like they're being discriminated against. So there's that
Yeah.
aspect of it. Um, the other aspect is it's very difficult in Hollywood to go against that message because everyone's doing it and everyone's afraid
Mm.
of being perceived as sexist or racist or anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, there was an interesting article that I read, and it's huge. It goes into loads of details, but it's like called "The New Rules in Hollywood," and it basically talks about the um, the fact that they've got quotas that they have to fill for writers and people behind the camera and everything, producers and all that. And it will basically be you have to hire this many women, you have to hire this many people of color, you have to hire this many LGBT people. And so they have to bring all these people in who don't have the experience, in a lot of cases don't have the talent or the ability because they're just being hired on their innate qualities, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the people that are then put in charge of producing new content, new TV shows, new movies and stuff. And they don't have that ability. And so the people that used to do it are just getting squeezed out because
Mm.
they're literally being told, well, I'm sorry, we can't have you anymore. We can't hire you because you don't tick the right box
Mm.
and you just have to go. And honestly, I think any studio that just had the guts to say, look, we are just going to literally hire people based on merit. We don't care if they're all male, all female, whatever it might be. We're just going to we're going to hoover up all these people that have been cast loose from their various studios and just get them to work for us. They would make an absolute killing.
Yeah.
Because they would get the best talent, the best people who with the most experience,
Mm-hmm.
and they could produce movies that weren't about the message or anything like that.
Yeah.
I just think it takes a long time. It takes a long time for trends to burn out in Hollywood and a new way of thinking to come in. And right now, all this woke stuff has got like the moral high ground. They're
Mm-hmm.
always able to say, well, we're on the side of minorities or repressed peoples or anything like that. And if you
Mm-hmm.
disagree with us, then you're the problem.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to argue against that, and not make yourself look like the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
And most of them are just too afraid to do it. That's the problem that we have right now.
Yeah. Do you get a lot of you must get a lot of hate comments, right? Like calling you all sorts of names.
Probably, yeah. I'm sure there's lots of people that dislike me on the internet.
Yeah.
And they're entitled to criticize me if they want. I don't care. But
Yeah.
My message to them is always like, look, I'm not doing any of this stuff out of hate. If I criticize Disney, it's not because I hate Disney. It's not because I hate Marvel. It's because, or I hate Hollywood. It's because I remember how good they used to be and the great things that they were able to produce.
Right.
I just want them to do that again. And I want them to do well. I would
Yeah.
like nothing better than to go into every movie and be able to sing its praises because I thought it was so great. But I can't lie. I'm not gonna pretend I liked the film when I didn't.
Yeah.
So this is where I'm at. But like, I'm fine if people want to criticize me. Like, I'd rather get criticized, for saying what I believe.
Yeah, exactly. There was a video someone made called maybe you've seen this, like the critical drinker is toxic. And
I watched a couple of minutes of it. A lot of people told me about it, and I was like, I'll look at it. I was like, I can't watch any of this garbage.
I went straight to the comments because I knew what kind of stuff they might say, but it was like, oh, thanks, you just introduced me to the critical drinker. I checked out his content and it's really funny. And there were like a ton of those where people got introduced to you and now liked you because of that video.
Yeah.
That's really good.
I just think it's funny that people are so mad at me that they would like make like a 30-minute video just raging at like what I dare to say. It's like, well, I'll just laugh all the way to the bank. I don't care.
Yeah, I definitely get a lot of hate comments because I make a lot of content about Meghan Markle. And people don't like that. People don't like that I talk about her in a not so positive way.
Oh, like Meghan and Prince Harry.
Yeah. I think
okay.
Yeah, it's like I write a lot about analysis of like movies and TV shows and things. But anytime I make that, like my subscribers are like, why aren't you talking about Meghan Markle? Like, that's so much more important. Like, come over to the side. I'm like, okay, like a little bit of both, please. Just a little bit of both.
That's really unusual. Like an American who's totally are you for Meghan Markle or against her? Or
I'm not for her. I think she's not what she seems. So I've done a lot of analysis around that. So like my history with it is that I used to date a narcissist, like a full-blown narcissistic personality disorder. And I didn't discover that while I was dating him. I discovered that like a few years later. Because there was like the patterns with the narcissist are very different. Like it's very unpredictable and you can feel really terrible going through that. And so as I was learning it, and then like all the stuff with Megxit was going on, I started like really thinking about Meghan Markle and like some of the things she's done to people, and a lot of stuff came out. So I was like, oh, let me make a video about this. Like if I feel certain about, calling her out, then let me put it down on into a video. That was a kind of a risk. Yeah.
So is she like a kind of narcissistic personality then?
Yeah. And that's what like a lot of people around her have said, like a lot of people who've met her have said, like, so it's based on like very specific things she's done. And so I made this video called spot like signs that you're dating a narcissist. And that one just like blew up, because I think people end up dating a narcissist and not realizing, because narcissists are very attractive, right? Like they're very charismatic. They can really convince you that you're dating the best person ever. And they'll make you feel like you're the best person ever for dating them. So you can fall in love really easily with the narcissist, but then like once you're in, you're like really trapped. Because you're like, you become your own enemy. You like start selling yourself like the lies, and so you could do anything. Like a narcissist could convince you that you should leave your family, you should break with all your friends, that you should change your entire personality to suit them. And so they'll prey on people that are capable of doing that, because not everybody's capable of doing that, right? Like being that malleable.
I think if I had to pick anyone who was, it would be the aristocracy. Because I know people that like move in those circles, and they're like, like basically all of them, like when they're kids, they, as soon as they're old enough, they get packed off to boarding school. Like they're all raised by like nannies and childminders. Like none of them spend any time with their actual parents, because that's how it's always been done. And so they all seem to have like really like low self-esteem and like just kind of like a kind of crappy upbringing. Like I know they're like fabulously wealthy, so it's not like they lack for anything, but they kind of lack for any like real support from their parents. And so they're the sort of people that are just, I guess they're quite vulnerable to that sort of manipulation.
And Prince Harry probably falls under that, because he's, the second, like he's the spare heir, right? And that's like a very difficult position to be in. And I think being in someone's shadow, like your brother's shadow, I think there was enough opportunity for him to be convinced that he's a lot more special than maybe his family lets him think. So there's like solid manipulation that could happen there. But who knows? I mean, this is all speculation from my end, but I think
the thing that, like, because I'm like, I've not kept up with all of it, but like the thing that always jumped out at me was Megan claiming like, oh, I didn't understand that there was going to be so many expectations on me when I like married into this family, that there'd be so much protocol and that I would have to toe the line on everything. It's like, it's the British royal family, for fuck's sake. Like, what did you think was going to happen? Like, this entire thing is founded on tradition and like people fulfilling a role. It's like that's the bedrock on which it's based. Like, what did you imagine it was going to be? Like, just do what you want, man. Say what you want.
Did you think you were going to the Denny's or something to meet your in-laws?
Yeah, it's like that. That's not the kind of life you live when you marry into a family like that.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what, like, when she first joined the royal family, I was like kind of excited. And I'm like, oh, she's pretty. There's like diversity. I don't know. I wasn't like terribly like, I wasn't feeling like, oh, this is weird or anything. I was like kind of excited. And then when they left, I think that's when it like kind of started piquing my interest, because it was like the lies sort of started coming out, right? Like, oh, I didn't know anything about him. Like, I didn't know the British, anthem, national anthem, and no one told me what the British royal anthem was, or I didn't know the protocols. I didn't know that I was not supposed to do this. And so, or it's coming out and saying like, oh, the family is racist. I think that one really piqued my interest, because when I hear that, I really want to know what's going on, because racism, that word, is so serious and it gets thrown around like it's like nothing, when it's actually like, it's like the worst aspersion that you could cast on anybody in a modern society that's actually like very multicultural. And to throw that at the family, that like they didn't stop you from getting into the family. If they were racist, they would have stopped you from getting into the family and getting married into it permanently. So the fact that she threw that around, I was like, okay, now I want to dive in. Like, what is her actual claim? Because I think it becomes like celebrity versus royal family, and there's like is one culture here, one culture there, and you're actually challenging an age-old tradition and like infrastructure, right? That exists in it, like culturally exists. Like people look at the royal family as something that's like part of themselves.
I think like talk about a clash of cultures. Like I guess she's from like California and stuff. Like a young Californian woman, like
Yeah.
probably like the most sort of progressive type you can imagine, versus the British royal family. Like that is
It's
that's a
kind of
matchup for
showdown.
the ages, man.
Yeah.
Damn. Because they are not going to bend for you, so I don't know what would happen. Like,
No, not at all.
I can
Yeah.
totally buy that. Like, especially when Prince Philip was still alive, there was a lot of racially insensitive language used behind closed doors. But like, I don't know how much of that was like actual malicious or just like him being a really old person who
From a
doesn't move
different
with the
time,
times.
and
Because like,
yeah.
yeah, when you're the prince, like you don't have to move with the times. You can do whatever the hell you want, man. It's
Yeah.
great.
You're not even
Um,
part of the times, really.
yeah,
Like,
exactly. You can
yeah,
define your own times if you want.
that's right. That's right. I know we
Um,
got sidetracked into the royal family, but
yeah,
uh,
God, we went.
should we
We've
come
covered.
back? Yeah, should we come back to more female-led movies?
I feel like we've covered everything in this. We've gone from Sex and the City to female-led
That's
movies.
true.
We've done the royal family. We should do geopolitics next. Like, mix everything.
Well, I
Like,
wanted to talk to you about Gone with the Wind. I wanted to talk
oh
to you about that.
yeah, okay.
Yeah. So you said you have seen it, right? Like a while ago.
Yeah, I've seen it a while back. Yeah,
Yeah.
I will
Yeah.
draw on my hazy memories of this film.
Deal. Because I think that's one of those movies that's probably one of my favorites of all time, but it's canceled. It's technically canceled. Can't talk about it too much
Yeah,
anymore.
that
But
is it.
I thought, okay, so coming back to that Brie Larson interview moment where she's like, she's trying to show, she's saying like, oh, my movie made $1 billion at the box office. Like, women can lead big blockbuster movies, and it just that comment really bothered me because it's like 1939. You have Gone with the Wind, the highest blockbuster, ever, like
Mm.
highest grossing movie ever, and we're not allowed to talk about it. We're not allowed to talk about her as a heroine, right? And I understand that it's a sticky situation. It's like a tense moment in American history. But what I love about her character is that she is not perfect. She starts off as this like 15-year-old girl who's very naive to, like, maybe she's 16, something like that, but she's like very naive to the reality of the world. And everything comes crashing down to the point that she goes from being part of, a very rich family to loses her home. She watches like young men getting butchered and, like, getting their legs cut off. Um, she has to escape from Atlanta while it's on fire. She like helps her friend have a baby while the city is burning down. She's watches that her mom has died, and then her father goes crazy and ends up dying himself. And as far as like being pushed to the limit, like that's a very compelling character. Whereas a young girl, she transforms into someone who can do anything to survive, including like selling herself into marriage, right? Like manipulating men into marrying her. And I like that that's like she's not this overly perfect. She's actually like manipulative and shitty, and she can do anything, but like her focus is what matters is survival.
Yeah, and
And
I
it's
think you identify with her for having to overcome these obstacles. Like, yeah,
right.
she's like you say, she's because she is like the daughter of a plantation owner
Yeah.
initially, isn't she? So wealthy
Yeah.
family, sheltered. I guess like their upbringing or their lives are built on the back of the slaves that they own.
Yeah.
The Civil War destroys all of that and takes it away
That's
from
right.
her, and so she's forced to survive on her wits and her resourcefulness.
Yeah.
So yeah, like you say, you've got a deeply flawed character who doesn't have any moral high ground to stand on, but like has to strive to come through it, and I guess ultimately emerges a stronger person at the end. And she doesn't necessarily win because
No.
Rhett like just basically tells her to fuck off at the end of the
Yeah.
movie and just wanders off, and like it's
Yeah.
just yeah, that's like
Yeah.
how the movie finishes. It's like, oh well, I'll move forward because tomorrow's another day.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's
yeah,
like the
it's
perseverance that she has, but also like you're right, like she suffers for the things that she does because she doesn't do good things, and she suffers consequences for that. Like she loses two children. The man she loves just walks away from her because she didn't treat him properly. Like, and Rhett is such an interesting character, like, talking about like mammoths of like American cinema, like what an incredible character. That he's another one of those like pragmatic, capable of anything, but he's actually more someone just said, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. That's right. But he's like
There's another one. Frankly, my dear, you can fuck off.
That's the critical drinker version of that.
Yeah.
Like, Rhett is actually like a good man in a way that she isn't. She isn't a good person, but her true love is someone who's useless. Like, Ashley doesn't know what to do in a crisis. He actually has no idea what to do in a crisis. He's like he wants to just sit under a tree and write poetry or something, but she has encapsulated in him her entire childhood. Like, he represents to her like the past, and Rhett is actually her future, and she can't see that. And I like that, coming back to like Commander Holdo thing you were saying earlier, like, how come Holdo didn't suffer any consequences for the decisions she made? And in this movie, she wholeheartedly suffers all the consequences and then still perseveres beyond that.
Yeah. That's I guess that's the shift in storytelling now, where if it's a female character, like you can't criticize them. They're above reproach. And that just makes for a pretty crappy viewing experience, because you don't have any sort of development of that character.
Well, they are queens. They slay all day.
Yeah, yes, queen slay. I love it. Like, Rhett's kind of an asshole throughout the movie, isn't it? Like, does he not treat Scarlett like shit most of the time? And he kind of belittles her a lot of the time, but like there's feelings there as well.
I think rather than belittling her, I would say he like challenges her. I think he doesn't take her BS, right? Like, he's not beguiled by her in the way, like, because she's so beautiful, and like, she is incredibly beautiful, but he's not like pandering to her. He challenges her. Whatever she says, he's constantly challenging her. And I think that's like that. Like, as a woman, I don't want to be with someone that's like constantly pandering to me. I want to be challenged. I want an equal. And that's sort of how I saw him to her.
Yeah. I got the same, and forgive me if I'm totally off base with this one, but I always got he was kind of similar to like that Mr. Big character from Sex and the City that you referenced earlier. Because is he not like this slightly distant figure that's always like, oh, he might be interested, he might not.
Yeah.
He flirts a little bit, then he backs away, and he's like this unattainable guy for Carrie.
Yeah.
And I feel like Rhett's a bit like that as well. Like, he kind of he leads her on a little bit, then he backs off, and he's never quite there.
I think they're similar in that way, in the way that they engage with their women. Where with Rhett, it's like he proposes marriage to her, but he doesn't want her, when she like tries to actually like use him for marriage and money. That's not what he wants. So at that point, he just like, he wants it on his terms, which is that you should respect me and marry me for me, not for my money or to use me for whatever, which is what she tries to do. She goes to see him in the jail and like try to convince him to marry her or sleep with her. It's kind of murky, so that she could have money and save her home. And that's not, I think his like level of self-respect is very interesting, because he's not one of those men that could be manipulated by her. Whereas right after she sees him, she goes to meet, she accidentally runs into someone who's actually her sister's beau. And she ends up manipulating him, and he falls for it like in a second. She just like puts her hand in his pocket and he falls for it, and they're married. Like the next second they're married. And I think showing that her like beauty is so dangerous, right? Like, she could have men crawling for her, right?
Yeah.
Except for Rhett. Rhett is not that type of man. And except for Ashley, those are the two men that never actually are willing to do anything for her. And that's why those are the two great loves of her life. It's like, that's the truth, right?
Yeah. I love this. This is a tangent, but I love this one. Drinkers dressed like he eats cereal for dinner with his fingers. This is what happens. Like the one time I wear like a fucking shirt, just because I was like, I'm wearing a t-shirt's boring. I'll do something else
That's
tonight.
a
I was like,
nice
this
looking
is the
shirt.
abuse I get.
They love
But
you.
no, I was thinking there, like when you referenced, how Scarlett, she can use her beauty to try and manipulate people and stuff. Like,
Mhm.
and you know, how do you see that as an aspect of female characters, that they can sometimes use their sexuality or their attractiveness for their own advantage?
Yeah.
Is that because I feels like that's the thing that's been done away with. It's like, well, we can't show a woman who just like is able to seduce men or
Right.
anything like that. She has to do it through sheer like physical domination almost.
Yeah, and I think so that's the strength that men have over women, is that they can physically dominate them. But the strength that women have is like through like I guess sexual wiles or even like emotional domination, right? Like I think it's fair to say like women, we can like really manipulate a conversation and win a fight if we want to, right? And like saying that we don't have tools to be equals in the world is not right, because we do have that. We do have the ability to win by a different kind of force, like a different kind of manipulation, not physical manipulation, but a different kind of manipulation.
Yeah.
And like showing that in Scarlet, I think this is why people don't look at Scarlet as an interesting hero, is because she uses her beauty so negatively, right? But she really uses it to survive. And one of those scenes that I love, that's like positive negative version of a woman, I don't know if you remember this, but like she accidentally gets caught like hugging Ashley. Like they're having a really intimate moment where they're both crying and hugging, like right before his birthday party. And so
Hmm.
the whole town is talking about it because she's married to Rhett. And Rhett forces her to wear this like red dress to the party so that she can look the part of being this like, you know, woman who uses her sexual wiles, right? And he drops her off at the party and she says, "You're not coming inside with me." He's like, "No, go into the den of wolves by yourself." And she walks in and she's like scared for a second, and then she flips it, and now she's almost like, she's almost like defiant, and she's
Mm.
willing to face up to that. And I think the way we look at women now is so like, oh, if they're only capable of good and they're only capable of being victims, and that's it, that their sexuality even is a way that they end up becoming victims, when it's really like you can turn that into a strength, and women know how to do that, and they know how to use it for something good or something bad. And we
Mm.
go through that in our heads. Like I can hear myself having an argument with my fiance where I could manipulate him right now, and I'm like, no, don't do that. That's not who you are. Like, oh, I could just start crying right now and he'll come comfort me and say, "You're right." Like, don't do that. Don't do that. I know I have strengths too, but I could use that for good or I could use that for bad. And I think we're not allowed to say that either.
Mm. No, that's an interesting. It's an interesting thing that you bring up there, because yeah, again, I think modern films wouldn't show that because it would imply, I don't know, that there's almost something inherently deceitful or manipulative there, that like that's it's almost dishonorable, and so you can't show that on screen in a female character. But then
Yeah.
I I suppose if you can't dominate a situation through size or strength or that kind of thing, like you have to be more smart about it, and you
Mm-hmm.
have to use other methods. And that's exactly like what you say. Like there's the
Mm-hmm.
ability to put on an act, to manipulate someone into doing what you want, like rather than forcing them, you're just persuading them
Yeah.
to get them to do what you want. But it ultimately achieves the same aim. It's just through different means.
Yeah.
um, and I think that's an interesting thing to explore in characters. Like I think we could probably do with a bit more of that, just to
Mm-hmm.
show that, like, yeah, you don't, your ability to control a situation isn't dependent on how big your muscles are, or
Yeah.
how much you can scare people straight up. It's about more than that. And
Yeah.
there's different ways to do these things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing to look at. And
Yeah.
I just feel like you wouldn't really get that in films today.
No.
And
No.
it's kind of a shame.
Unless it's used to show men as really like stupid, because I do see that a lot. Like, oh, I think I saw that in the new Charlie's Angels, like where like the men are just constantly like just fall
Yeah.
for the women, right? But it's like, oh, but the woman has no part in that. It's like actually the man's choice to assume that like they're about to have sex or whatever. Like the
I think
woman didn't do anything.
yeah, like with something like Charlie's Angels, it's like men are kind of so comically easy to manipulate that it's like farcical.
Yeah.
You know, like the girl just has to like wear a slightly revealing dress or just like, you know, be a little bit flirtatious or whatever. And the guy's like, you know, breathing heavy and panting like a dog, you know, and it's like it's a bit more subtle than that. Like it
Yeah.
needs a bit more to it than that.
Yeah.
So yeah, like that's some, but then it also shows them being able to beat up guys and take on like big strong bodyguards and stuff and just subdue them easily. So it's like having your cake and eating it, really.
Yeah.
With that movie, it's like they can be seductive, but they can also be like big, powerful fighters, just like men.
That movie was just such a terrible female representation.
It was just, it's just,
Setting us back.
just garbage films that we get nowadays.
And you know what? Like, as empowering as Sex in the City was supposed to be, like, just like now, just like that. I think that's what the show's called, which is terrible title, by the way. The
Yeah,
show.
I've heard things about it, and I
It's
can't make up my
terrible.
mind if it's like, because it tries to address this whole thing of like how, you know, almost like the most racially insensitive people are like rich liberal women.
Mm,
Like the moment they have to deal with like a person of color or you know, a gay person or whatever, like they don't know how to speak to them, and suddenly
yeah.
they're tripping over themselves to be like as accommodating as possible and not offend them, but they actually make it worse because like they're just drawing attention to stuff that doesn't even need to be mentioned.
Right.
And I think the show apparently now deals with that. Um,
Yeah. There's that
but like,
awkwardness. Yeah.
but is it trying to make fun of how that is now and how everyone's so super sensitive, or is it like trying to embrace it? Like, because I've not really seen it, so I don't know.
Yeah. I was wondering the same thing because it was like, I think it was a desire to embrace it, but also show how like left-footed people feel trying to like navigate the current climate.
Mm,
Um, and there's a lot of like oh, verbal diarrhea from one of the characters when she meets her professor who's black and has braids, and
right.
um, or even like, oh, there's a character whose pronouns are they on it, and like rather than challenging it, they're not saying like they're actually accepting it. It's just that they're struggling to remember to say they, and so then they talk about that. So it's like that level of discussion, that kind of discussion of like wokeness, I would say. um but it's like, I think what made the show really interesting was that it was very judgy. Like there were things that they would like look down on in the show, right? Like, oh, this behavior is not acceptable or this is not good. And like, and it was fine. Like, okay, if someone's having sex with someone and he's like bad in bed or whatever, and then they would talk about how bad he is in bed, and like it was judgment. It was all about saying that that sucks. And now
Mm,
the show's become about like intense desire of acceptance of everything. So
hmm
there's no conflict, there's no conversation. It's just about acceptance. Um, or even it's also like they're trying to act like they're in their 20s on top of it. Like they're talking about sliding into DMs and stuff and like smoking a ton of pot. I'm like, who says sliding into their DMs if you're like over 30, you don't say that shit. Like, what are you saying that in your 50s for? Like, you could just say you texted each other. Like, it feels very awkward. Like they'll say use phrases like throwing shade. And it's like, you don't want to hear your grandma saying words like throwing shade. Like, it just feels so weird.
Yeah, because the actresses are in their 50s and 60s now, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
mid
that's just
50s.
sad, man. I don't I don't want to see this anymore. I
Yeah,
mean, like, I know it's not for me, but damn,
yeah.
like, I didn't know if they were going to go down like the Cobra Kai road and have them be like almost like they hadn't really experienced the world since the 1990s, and so like they're in the present day and like they don't understand anything anymore. Like, what is this TikTok that you mentioned? Like,
That would have been a little more interesting, but like I think
I
even
would have I would have watched that show, man. Like if they'd just been teleported from the 90s into like present day and they didn't
yeah,
understand all the nonsense that we have to deal with now. Like that'd be
yeah, and
good.
challenging it and saying like, what the hell is this? Like some level of judgment, which like there's nothing wrong with judgment. It's actually like a conversation.
I think like I guess as long as you're fair, like if you've got a sense
Hmm.
of fairness in yourself and you get that sense of like, this nonsense that you're spouting at me doesn't make sense and
Yeah,
it just seems ridiculous. You know, it's okay to say that. You don't have to say like you are a ridiculous person because of this, but like, you can call it out and like call attention to like, no, I don't have to accept everything that you're telling me. Like, I
right,
don't have to act a certain way around you because you've told me that's the case. Like, you don't
right,
have control over me.
yeah,
You know,
right,
your experiences are all well and good, but like you don't get to manipulate the entire world to suit you. And I guess that's the difference.
yeah,
But again, like even saying stuff like that is way over the score now, and that's, I guess,
yeah.
a lot of the problem.
Yeah, there was one, I completely agree with you because it's about a fair review of something, right? Not accepting it at face value, but not also like dismissing it entirely. But there was one moment where one of the daughters of one of the main characters, she's decided not to go by the pronoun of she anymore. She's decided to be called they, and she wants to change her name from Rose to Rock. And
Right.
instead of finding out from their daughter, the parents end up finding out from the school administrators about this.
Right.
And the father just says, like, so that's it. Like, our daughter doesn't tell us this. You guys tell us, and that's it. Like, her name's not Rose anymore. Her name is Rock, and we have to call them they. Like, and his desire to like challenge that is immediately shut down by his wife because it is like, and I could also understand why, because it's a very uncomfortable thing, because in front of school administrators, like, they're going to think you're mistreating your daughter if you don't accept her new or their new pronouns. And it was a it actually made me very uncomfortable with that moment. Like, how would that feel if someone else was telling me who my daughter is?
That is weird shit. Just I have
Yeah.
to bring this up first, just before I go on. Yeah.
He's
This is the
getting his
abuse I get.
degree. He's getting his
Uh,
degree on the side, guys.
yeah, just but no, like this is a thing in America, isn't it? Like yeah, like is this not the case that like a lot of kids, like when they go to school, if they decide that they want to identify as something else or whatever, they're encouraged to almost not discuss it with their parents and just like go to the school board and just get treated a certain way, and then it's only later that the parents get told.
Yeah.
Um, that
Yeah.
that just seems terrifying, man. Like
Yeah.
to have your school come to you and say like, oh yes, so we've decided that your kid is now identifying as like a ham sandwich or something, and
Yeah.
that's you just have to treat them that way because we say so, and you don't get to negotiate with them or talk to them
Hmm.
about it in any way. Like that's just how it is, and if you disagree, there's going to be criminal action taken against you, I'm afraid.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very scary. I would say it's a very scary time for parents because in at least in America, I really don't know what the situation is like in other countries, but um, where it's almost looked at as the child is the property of the school and not not the parents, right? Um, and the parents have it's no longer like mom and dad know best. It's more like you're old news and you're standing in the way and you don't understand, and you're trying to impose all these limitations of your messed up past on us. Like, get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
And it's very weird.
Yeah, I don't get that
Yeah.
that kind of culture at all.
Yeah.
It just seems, yeah, it seems like the parents are treated as like enemies
Yeah.
rather than, the people that care the most about their own child. You would
Right.
assume so anyway.
Yeah. And
Um,
to be fair to the show, I think that part was like reflected really in an interesting way, where the father really said, like, she's, I don't know, her age is like 14 or something. She's 14. How can she be making this decision?
yeah,
Right. But they were very quick to sweep that under the rug. But I think actually, like, a mature review and discussion of that, even if it ends in acceptance, would have been so much more interesting than the absolute bullshit that they're serving as part of the show, which is, one woman is ending her 15-year, 20-year marriage because she's now decided that she's interested in a non-binary woman and wants to pursue that. And even it's like she just walks out of the marriage. It's like in an instant she's out. There's no thought, there's no, like, there are no issues around it. It's just she's out. So it's
Mm.
this, like, it's like you would be that quick to come to a decision if you were a teenager or if you're in your 20s. But if you're in your 50s and you've built a life with someone and you have a child with someone, like, would you be really that quick to just be like, I'm leaving, I'm getting a divorce, we're done? It's such a weird way to tackle such an important subject.
It feels like this, like from what you're describing, like it just kind of feels like the show is trying to ingratiate itself with audiences today. It's like, I don't know, it's like a middle-aged guy in a nightclub being like, "Yeah, I'm cool. I'm
Yeah.
I'm with it.
Yes.
Look at my shirt." You know? And just not really, I guess, not really staying true to what made it like kind of cool and interesting in the first place.
Yeah.
And just
Yeah.
becoming something completely different. I don't know, man. Like, I'm going from pretty scattered knowledge of what this is, but
Right.
the way you're describing it, yeah, it just seems kind of shitty. I'm not gonna lie, it doesn't seem like a good, good representation of what people should aspire to, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess it would have been like the equivalent of the original Star Trek crew coming back for a movie in their old age and trying to, like, be really hip versus actually continuing on their journey. And I
Mm.
think there are, like, certain things that are, like, timeless, right? Like, certain journeys are timeless, that we don't have to pretend like things aren't hard, certain things aren't hard, and that you, like, it's okay to be mature. You don't have to sell an immaturity to try to convince, like, 18-year-olds who are on Snapchat that they should watch the show. Which, why would they? Why would you watch a show where, like, literally the storylines are about them getting old? One of the storylines is that she needs hip surgery. Another is that she lost her husband and is a widow. Like, why would young kids want to watch that? Like, you have to make this for the audience that actually does care about these characters, and they're now in their 30s and 40s. They don't care about the crap that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how well this show's doing or anything, if
I
it's
don't know.
bombing or whatnot, but yeah, I would much rather see a show where they're like, yeah, they're older and they're adapting to a different stage in their life, but like they're suddenly having to navigate like a different world now, and like they don't really understand anything, but like
Yeah.
they're just like, no, fuck off, like it doesn't negate the things that we did in the past, and it doesn't negate what we are as people.
Yeah.
Something like that, I guess, but like it's yeah, it seems like a difficult thing to try and work now. I
Yeah.
almost would just say like I just wouldn't have brought it back. Like I think shows like that probably had their time and their place, and like maybe
Yeah.
seeing these characters who are now in their 50s and 60s, like I don't necessarily want that.
Yeah. I think one of the shows that I always wanted to come back, but I'm really glad that it didn't, was probably Firefly. Like, just leave it where it was and then don't try to,
Yeah,
like, except for the one movie, which was very good. But, like, just,
Serenity. Yeah.
yeah, I love that movie and I love that show. It's probably one of my favorite shows of all time.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things that like I would rather they'd left alone. Like they brought the Matrix back recently.
Oh, yeah. I saw
And
your review of that. I didn't see the
yeah,
movie. I thought watching your review was sufficient.
yeah, it made me sad that they did this, and like
Hmm.
it accomplished nothing. It had nothing interesting to say. It was just like, yeah, it's just making a movie for the sake of it. And
Hmm.
aren't we clever and meta because we're talking about Warner Brothers forcing us to do a sequel? Um, it's not. It doesn't make your movie clever that you're
Yeah.
just referencing real world studio politics,
Yeah.
and ultimately you're just rehashing the same crap that we had before.
Hmm.
Yeah, and it just everyone's now like 20 years older and not really as physically capable anymore. So, man,
Yeah.
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 Um,
Probably best to leave that alone.
the the other thing that like because I'm going to go into super chats
Sounds
shortly
good.
because I know that they've been building up and don't worry people of chats, I will not neglect you. Like all the super chats that have come through, I will answer them. But yeah, the other just thing I was going to talk about just before I moved on was
Hmm.
I recently today I actually just did a review of all the Bond actors. You know, I was trying
Mm.
to rank them and stuff, and who I thought was the best. And I tried to be as fair as I could be,
Mm.
and Daniel Craig ended up being fairly near the bottom of the list
Oh,
because
interesting.
I came to not like him for a variety of reasons, but I feel like he never really exemplified what Bond should have been for me. And I don't know if
Mm.
you're familiar with it
I am.
much or anything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I am. Yeah.
Um, I think everyone's probably got their favorite out of all the different people that did it. And
Hmm.
ultimately, I picked Sean Connery as
That's
being
your favorite.
top, like, which I think most people kind of do anyway.
Yeah.
I got a feeling that you're, you agree as well.
It's Sean Connery. I mean,
Yeah.
he established the role. I think um for me, I really like Daniel Craig just because like I was in college when the first movie came out, Casino Royale, and I got obsessed with the movie. So it became like he became my Bond. But when I went back and watched all the older films with my dad, I saw like Sean Connery just had a very um, different approach to it. And, even Roger Moore, I really, really love Roger Moore's approach to it as well. But with Daniel Craig, it was like a very gritty Bond, very like to the point that they almost like broke him down to nothing. And that just stopped being charming to me. It was like, it was interesting in Casino Royale, it was interesting in Quantum of Solace, but like after that, especially, I know people love Skyfall, but I just really did not like his character beyond Casino Royale. um
Yeah.
yeah, it felt lost to me.
I think for me there was that sort of slight disconnect. Like I liked the idea of like the movies being more serious and gritty and
Yeah.
stuff, but
Yeah,
I
and
didn't like Daniel.
stylized.
Yes, but I didn't like Daniel Craig in the role.
Mm.
And the reason being, one, like he didn't really have any of the kind of charisma and charm of a lot of the other actors. He didn't really seem like he was enjoying himself. Like it
Hmm.
really felt like it was a
Yeah.
grind for him. Um, and yeah, like I feel like his Bond was just like a really mopey sort of sad sack of a character. Like he was always just like miserable about something.
Yeah.
He wasn't the kind of ladies man, the
No.
sort of charismatic type that you got in previous movies, and it just always felt like something was missing with him.
Hmm.
Like they were trying to make this character into something else. And I guess the reason I brought all of this up is like I picked out Bond as a character because saw him as a real kind of archetype of masculinity in cinema. You
Hmm.
know, like he at his base, he kind of exemplifies a lot of the things that I would define as masculine. You know,
Masculine.
he's strong, he's cold, he's kind of dangerous,
Hmm.
he's ruthless. He is like a bit of a womanizer, but he never really lets people get close to him.
Right.
Um, and I think there's something kind of timeless and classic about that.
Hmm.
Regardless of the person that's played him, like they've each brought something slightly different to the role, but the fundamental character remains as him. And I think that he's a really interesting character and one that's just a fun person to see in movies.
Yeah.
But it's kind of interesting for me, I guess, to get your take on what Bond is as a character and whether he is actually as interesting as I think he is. You know, from a female point of view, I suppose. Like, is he as kind of compelling attractive as a lot of people imagine him to be, or is he like a little bit dated or whatever? I don't know.
Yeah, I think I watched your review of the last die, No Time to Die. There you go. And I remember I was thinking a lot about what you were saying, that okay, he's the epitome of masculinity. And I thought, how attracted do I feel to James Bond? I really tried to think a picture of that in the different types of James Bond. And I think the most attracted I felt to James Bond was actually in Casino Royale. And
Okay.
I think it's it's like an evolution of what masculinity is. And I don't know how much I also agree with this. I'm just going to say it out loud as I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
I think the womanizing aspect of Bond throughout the history, the thing is, like, that was something that needed to be maintained to keep the character timeless. Because otherwise, what do you have? Like, you take someone who's a womanizer. Let's take like Tony Stark. You take
Mm-hmm.
him as a womanizer, and he evolves and settles down. Like you were saying, right? There are phases in life. And so there are phases in life for James Bond. There are phases in life for Tony Stark. At one point, womanizing is all he thinks about. And then at another point, he actually can do anything for his family. Like, he would die for his family. And which is what happened to Tony Stark. So I think the attraction also changes. Like, okay, when I was in my 20s, the womanizer was very attractive, but now as I'm in my 30s, the man who could do anything to protect his family is very attractive.
Mm.
And like Hugh Hefner is a good example of, like, forever womanizer, like died a womanizer, marrying 18-year-olds, and like not attractive at all.
Mm.
Not attractive at all, because that's someone who's prolonged as a child, right? So I think that what's attractive about a womanizer is that he can change for the right woman. At least to a woman, that's very attractive.
Yeah, I've heard this. It's like the desire to be the one who can tame him or fix him or whatever.
Yeah, which can be a very like toxic thing to think about, especially if you're in a relationship where you're like get in with the whole idea that I'm going to change him. But I think in
Yeah.
general, like, I think rather than changing him, actively changing him, I think like there are men that meet women that then they're willing to be a different version of themselves for. And it's like and it's really that they're willing to leave behind an old phase that they no longer find valuable, and
Mm.
they're willing to get to now the next level of meaning.
See, that makes me wonder if he's at that. I don't know if he's at that appealing stage when he's just on the cusp of moving from being the womanizer to someone who's going to form a more lasting relationship. Because
Yeah.
it's an interesting thing that you brought up Tony Stark, because I think with Tony within the Marvel movies and stuff, he very much had a progression as a character.
Yeah.
He starts out as a selfish narcissist.
Yeah.
He's like an arms dealer and stuff. He's a womanizer.
Yeah.
Gradually becomes a more selfless person. Learns to understand like the value of people around him.
Mm-hmm.
Is willing to sacrifice his life to protect other people. Has
Mm-hmm.
a family, and then ultimately he gives up his own life
Yeah.
for everything. Makes the ultimate sacrifice.
Right.
So Tony very much is a continuous character with an arc.
Mm-hmm.
I think Bond is kind of a unique case in that in a sense, he doesn't progress like as a person. Like
Right.
if you go back from Sean Connery back in Doctor No all the way up to Pierce Brosnan's Bond, at least,
Mm-hmm.
he's still just the same person. Ultimately,
Right.
he's kind of trapped in that time locked sort of phase of his life where he's in his late 30s and he's just playing the field. He's a womanizer. He's an agent undercover. All the rest
Right.
of it. So he much more than Tony is just like, for me, he's like an archetype who doesn't age, doesn't change necessarily.
Right.
And I was always just kind of curious to see what it is, if anything, that women find attractive about him, and if
Yeah.
that changed or whatever over time. It's kind of interesting what you say about like as you yourself get to different stages in life,
Yeah.
look for different aspects of his character to balance that out.
Yeah. And like the character that over the years, like, I found the most attractive is probably Steve Rogers. Um, because he's not the womanizer at all, and there's like a little bit like a lack of charisma there. But I think the fact that he's so determined in doing his duty and like living by his morality, that to me is just like incredibly attractive. I think that he represents like the ultimate ideal of what it means to be an American, even if America's not living up to that ideal right now. But I think he's like a perfect embodiment of that.
More so than Captain America.
Like, you mean like Captain America versus Steve Rogers, like who he is wearing the costume?
I'm thinking more like the Steve Rogers version.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like I think of Steve Rogers as like without that cowl. Like who is he under the cowl?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny, like I came to really like him as a
Yeah.
character. Like initially he was like really goofy and just like kind of over the top like a Superman, but without the sort of awesomeness of being Superman.
Right.
But the more movies he was in, the more layers they put on his character, and I was like, holy shit, I actually really fucking like this guy by the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah.
And that bit in Endgame when he picked up Thor's hammer, I was
Oh,
just like, fuck yeah, do it, man.
yes. I love
Really
that
liked
scene.
it. But I think there's just something actually really awesome about like that old school kind of patriotism and just that sense of heroism and
Yeah.
self-sacrifice. It's almost like that old fashioned sense of duty and stuff that he, I
Yeah.
guess, grew up with in World War II.
Right.
um when you see it in modern movies, you're like, God, I actually really fucking appreciate this when I see it. I
Yeah.
think it's great.
Yeah.
um
And when
yeah
he, the moment before he picks up the hammer, but like he's obviously very injured, and he still picks himself up and puts on,
yeah,
grabs his shield, and he's still ready to go up against an
he's
entire army,
by
like
himself, injured with no weapons,
with no
nothing.
weapon
That
and with
is
no help. Yeah,
that's Steve
that's
to an
Steve.
absolute T. That's the little scrawny kid who got beat down in an
Yeah,
alleyway and just kept getting up again because he
I
wouldn't
know.
give in. That's the essence of a heroic character right there.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's, man, love it. Love to see it.
yeah,
It's just so great.
yeah,
And there's something really just pure about it. I really like that.
yeah, and yeah, like the heroism from World War II. I think like I really lament the de-evolution of like American culture. He's just it's just we're like in a completely different place now, and um we've like become very like obsessed. Everything is about celebrities, and there's like there's it's very disheartening.
Man, like, I need you guys to not like lose this, because this is what got us through as kids in the UK. Like, even that whole thing that they've changed about Superman, where he used to stand for truth, justice, and the American way, and
Yeah,
now they've changed it to truth, justice, and like a better social justice tomorrow or whatever.
yeah,
Like, as a Brit, I didn't care that it wasn't from my country. Like, I
yeah,
could still get behind that. It's like, yeah, fuck yeah, America's awesome. We watched like GI Joe and stuff when I was a kid. We didn't
yeah,
care that it wasn't from my country. It didn't matter. It was still awesome. You saw America as just this powerful fucking force of freedom that would just go around blowing up the bad guys, and that was perfectly fine as far as we were concerned.
right.
And yeah, we appreciated that. And um, in the UK, certainly, there's a real, I don't know how you'd put it, like a real anti-patriotic movement. Like
Mhm.
if you say you put like a Union Jack flag up in your garden,
Mhm.
just like Americans do, like they put like the stars and stripes up on their
Yeah,
lawn,
yeah,
like
yeah,
but if you were to do that in the UK, everyone would look at you like, "Oh God, that guy, he's
God.
pretty far right." Like that there's something. He's clearly a racist or something. It's like, no, that's just putting up your country's flag in your garden.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like there's nothing about that. In
yeah,
America, you would always be able to do that with no questions asked. But I feel like now you guys are starting to slide in that direction
yeah.
slowly but surely.
Yeah.
Um,
My parents put up they always keep a US flag out, and there have been instances where, we've gotten sort of looks for that. Um, and so it's like patriotism isn't cool anymore. it's exclusionary. It's like, oh, you think we're better than other people. How silly are you for thinking that, right? So it's, yeah, our culture is like really, really bad, and very anti ourselves. We're
Yeah.
like, it's like people are willing for our own destruction. Like, oh, we should fall as a nation. It's like, God, are you guys crazy? Like, I moved here from India, like when I was really young. My dad moved us all out here. So for me, seeing the difference of all the opportunity that America offered us, and there were things that were just so basic to Americans that are such an impossibility in other countries. And we get so much here. We're like actually treated really well here, and we just take that for granted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whenever I've gone to America, like I've always just, like in the past anyway, there's just always been this real feeling of like optimism and positivity. Like whenever you talk to someone, like, even just something simple like, "Oh, you having a good day?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm having a great day."
Yeah.
Like, yes, of course you're having a great day. And like, because of that, it makes you feel like you're having a good day as well. Like
Yeah.
you talk to someone in Scotland and it's like, how are you doing? And you'll get like, "Oh, I'm doing away." Basically, like, I'm just counting down the days till I fucking die. That's the difference in mentality, but like it totally affects you. And
Yeah.
that's what I always used to love about America, just the
Mm.
positivity. And like it just, the people loving being American. You'd drive past
Yeah.
houses and they'd have the stars and stripes flying above their
Yeah.
house. It's great. It's good. Like, it makes you feel good about being there.
Right.
Yeah, it's just, I don't understand people that end up like hating that or
I
looking
know.
down on it somehow. I don't know.
I'm hoping it's cyclical and that we tire out of that, and that it becomes actually like the next generation becomes a lot more excited about being patriotic, but who knows? But I'm hopeful.
One thing I was going to say is, I know there's quite a few super chats that have come in. Would you be up for doing a few? See if we can get through some.
Yeah, let's do it.
Nice one. This one should be easy enough. The bits and pieces man said, "Would you visit the Titanic?" Yes. Drain the oceans and I'll walk right down to it. The Outcast Creative said, took partner's niece, to see Aliens and the first Alien at the cinema last week. She'd never seen either of those movies. Loved them both. Looking forward to having you as our guest next Wednesday for the Jason Fleming interview. Stay frosty. Alien and Aliens, both awesome. Ellen Ripley, fantastic character.
Fantastic.
Really like her. Again, I don't know if we touched upon her as a character and like when we were talking about various ones, but like she's a great example of having a strong, really strong female character who's not a superhuman, who's not doesn't just charge in without fear or anything. She's absolutely terrified a lot of the time, but she does it because she's got this drive to help people, or she wants to protect Newt. It's like a surrogate daughter for her. Yeah, a really, really powerful aspect to the character. But yeah, for people that are watching this, me and Mahler are going to be on the 2nd of February. We're going to be interviewing Jason Fleming, the actor, on the Outcast Creative stream. So we're both looking forward to that. That should be cool.
I just saw someone's chat saying they're rebooting Firefly.
Oh no. Let's see. They're rebooting Firefly. Doesn't stand a chance. I need to get to the bottom of this. What? Hold on. Give me 1 second.
This
Firefly
can't be
reboot. Yes. Fuck. It's Firefly reboot coming to Disney Plus. Firefly was cancelled on Fox Television in 2002. All right. This is an older article. Let's see. So the most recent one I can find is from December last year. Yeah. So apparently it is coming to Disney Plus.
Oh, so, and it's not going to be Joss Whedon.
Nah, he's poison in Hollywood these days.
He's cancelled.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
I mean, I can definitely. Oh shit, we've lost her. What the fuck? Well, hopefully she comes back in. In the meantime, I'll do some more super chats until she's back. Ah, there she is. Yeah, sorry, I lost you for a second there.
Sorry. Can't click. Okay. Sorry, you were saying?
No, yeah, Joss Whedon, he is cancelled in Hollywood because yeah, he was a bit of a bad man. Yeah, I mean,
I was a little disappointed to find that out. But I guess like people like men who come out and say that they're really staunch feminists tend to always have like some kind of skeletons in their closet.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's is that weird, creepy thing about them. And it's unfortunate, but like, yeah, it just makes me really wary of guys like that. Like they've
Yeah.
got some kind of weird ulterior motive to what they're doing.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But
like I've talked with other people about this. It's like when it comes to shows like Buffy and stuff, like it doesn't diminish my appreciation for what he created. It's
yeah,
just like, yeah, I can not like the man, but I can still respect what he did.
the art. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Um, RRTNZ, he said, Hail Drinker, as well as the obvious choices, might I suggest Gina Davis in Long Kiss Goodnight as a great action heroine? Have a shot on me, mate. Cheers, man. Yeah, she was a great hero in that story. She was like an assassin that had lost her memory, so
Oh.
she thinks she's like a housewife, just living a quiet life and stuff, and
Mhm.
then she starts having little flashbacks to like her former life, and then eventually gets like reactivated as this total kick-ass assassin. But yeah, she's really
Nice.
good in it. Like Gina Davis really trained up for the role and prepared for it, and yeah, she's pretty good in the action scenes. So yeah, I like Long Kiss Goodnight, and it's got Samuel L. Jackson in it, just being Samuel L. Jackson. um,
I haven't seen that movie. I will check it out.
it's definitely worth viewing. I think
Okay.
you get a kick out of it.
Okay.
Also from the same guy, said, "Hail again. I know your list is very long, but how about a stream or review on the Captain America trilogy, or maybe just Capt in the MCU? Back when the MCU was actually good. Cheers." Yeah, like we were just talking about Cap there.
Mhm.
Just your classic hero. I would definitely love to talk about him.
Yeah.
Um,
That would be a good video.
yeah, either as a stream or just as a character sort of breakdown review.
Mhm.
Chucksenhausen said, "Hail Drinker, this will be a hash brown legendary stream, just like the happy hour of Karate Kid with Geeks and Gamers and Tom from Midnight's Edge. Hope it can happen." Yeah, we did a review of Cobra Kai a few weeks back, and it
Nice.
was good fun, good fun. And we might do one for Karate Kid as well.
Oh, that would be good.
Greg Marquez said, "Modern strong female characters seem to be more self-inserts of how the filmmakers would like to be, not the
Mm.
complex, flawed, interesting characters that they used to be." I be inclined to agree with that, actually.
Yeah.
There's a lot of self-inserts going on, but it's always like an idealized version of the
Mhm.
author, not who
Mhm.
they actually are.
Yeah. Like they can't
Um,
see their flaws, so it's like they like turn themselves into a Mary Sue.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'd always love to know what they get out of that. Like, do they feel better about themselves then? Like, seeing these movies get made? It's like,
Yeah.
does that make their own lives better somehow? I don't know. It's weird.
I think honestly, like we were talking about narcissism earlier, right? Like, do you get the feeling like we all have the ability to turn into like intense narcissists with the way like we engage with social media and stuff?
I think it's easy to do. Like, I mean, you'll know yourself. Like when you start to get to a certain level on YouTube, like you get a lot of people saying like, "Yeah, I love what you're doing" and all that, and like you can start to buy into
Yeah.
your own bubble, I suppose.
Yeah.
Um, and it's quite easy, and I can totally see how it happens. Like as much as it happens to YouTubers like us, like it'll be 10 times worse for Hollywood actors or whatever,
Right.
or screenwriters or anyone like that, because they are
Yeah.
just surrounded by people who think exactly like them. They tell them that they're doing the best work imaginable. They're changing the world. Yeah, of course you're going to buy into that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I
yeah.
appreciate the odd, like random hate comment I get because I feel like, yeah, cut me down. Like, you don't need to tell me my work is good. Like, tell me also it sucks. Like, I need to hear both.
I think so. It's always useful, and like
Mhm.
I think constructive criticism is great.
Yeah.
It's if someone just like emailed me and said, "Yeah, drinker, you spin on this, you prick," yeah, it's not gonna cut much ice. But like,
No.
yeah, someone who says like, "Yeah, I love like what you did here or whatever," but like this, I think needs a lot of work or
Right.
something like that. Like constructive, it's like, okay, I'll totally hear you out.
Yeah.
It's always worth listening to. Um,
Someone said, haha, was that an invitation?
yeah. Well, I don't know. I've had enough criticism from a fucking shirt already. Goddamn. The next one said from Nick B. He said, "I say we take off and super chat the entire stream from orbit. It's the only way to be sure." Damn right it is. Ghost in the Craigs said, "100% female characters are amazing when written well." Yeah. Of course they are. Like, just they're no better or worse than male characters. They're just different facets, and so yeah, it all comes down to how well they're written. Michael Hansen said, "Sadly, the most frightening scene in the entire Alien franchise is the director's choices for god awful panties on Ripley." I did notice that actually. Like, they don't cover up much, and like they seem to be halfway down her ass. Like that's not good design, especially in space. I expect better. Murad Masuri said, "Hail Drinker and his magic." Thank you. Jordan Long said, "Thank you for addressing this topic so meaningfully, significantly, and effectively, and without an ounce of anti-woke rhetoric." Thank you very much. I think we've been pretty fair on this stream, haven't we?
I hope so.
I'd say we've been pretty balanced.
Mm-hmm.
Dragon's Advocate said, "Are we talking about favorite heroines today? Awesome. Here's mine. Laurie Petty in Tank Girl. Excellent. Absurdly stupid, and I love it. Cheers." That was a good movie, actually. Tank Girl's a lot of fun. Lazy Ninja TV said, "I know Sarah Connor and Ellen Ripley has been used to death as strong female characters, but even today, they're my favorite characters. Also, Vasquez from Aliens is total badass." She absolutely is.
She is.
Got a
I
lot of
love
time
her
for that kid.
character.
She fought like a boss, and she went out like an absolute boss as well.
Hell yes. Hell yes.
I love how her final line was just like, "You always were an asshole, Gorman."
That was so fitting too.
Totally. Yeah. I love how the two of them went out together.
Yeah. Yep.
That Indian dude said, "I don't know if you're into MMA, but Michael Bisping recently gave you a shout out. Love you. We'll love watching you." Cool.
What? That's so
fucking
cool.
awesome. Yeah.
Amazing.
And it's always, I love the random people that seem to know who I am.
Yeah.
Bear Business said, "After seeing the new Mulan, my 60-year-old mother said, 'Oh, she's not smarter than the problem anymore. This is shit. Shit is the harshest curse for her.'" I love that she basically boiled that entire movie down to a single sentence. I fucking love it.
That's exactly right.
Bizauda One said, "Riddle me this, drinker. If characters resonate with archetypes of the psyche and beliefs, then what the fuck is up with this writers? Is this a new archetype? What does it mean for society? Shalom from Israel." So, okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to puzzle through this super chat.
So does that mean, like what is up with the way the characters write these, the writers write these new characters?
I assume so, yeah. I assume that's what he's going for. It's maybe just mistyped or something. So what is with that? I think today it's probably a case of projection. Just trying to project yourself into a story and have some kind of idealized version of yourself without any of the struggles or flaws.
Yeah, and like the definition of an archetype is like something that resonates with you as a truth. Like if you can look at a character and like connect with them, that means it's like, they probably reflect things that you run into in your life. So it's like these characters the new ones are so half baked that you can't really look at them as archetypes because you can't really connect with them. They're like a half truth or like a sliver of a truth.
Here's a question for you, actually. How to improve girl fights in movies? So say you got a girl versus a man or whatever, how can you make it more believable?
Oh, that's a very good question. I would say like putting in more ingenuity and like women sort of thinking through how to be fight avoidant, but also use things around them to help them. Like, I think a one-on-one, just like, there's no way, no matter how much I hit the gym, I'm not going up against a stuntman appropriately. But I could use my environment or my ingenuity to actually accomplish my goal. And I think seeing that would be really cool.
Fair play indeed. That's pretty much what I would have said as well. Valkyria Winter says, Redcliffe, a China movie, has the same, where a female wants to fight but is told she is not allowed, though she helps by spying for the war effort. Yeah, fair play. I think that would be another good role. Rather than just straight up like strength and physical prowess, it would be like, using your ingenuity.
Yeah.
Terrell Lahane said, so I'm drunk again, but I love the James Bond video, though I'd rate Craig about third in the list. Love you, drinker. I think you're being a little bit generous there. I would put Dalton above Craig. Yeah.
And is Roger Moore number 2?
Roger Moore was number 3. So Lazenby was like 6th because like he only did one film and he was pretty much a plank of wood.
Yeah, he's a model and that's what he did.
Yeah. Then I went Daniel Craig, then Timothy Dalton, because I think him and Craig are kind of similar. They're both really dark and serious versions of Bond, but I always felt like Timothy Dalton was much more invested in it, whereas Daniel Craig just kind of seemed like he couldn't be arsed.
I don't know how someone can talk out so much against their like movie franchise and still continue to get the role over and over.
I know. It's lots of money.
Yeah.
I think it was just wanting to have continuity. And then I think I went Roger Moore, Pierce Brosnan, and then Sean Connery. I've got a real soft spot for Rog. I don't know what it is. I just really like him. Just like some kind of affable old drunken gentleman, and I love it. Next one is.
I have a quick question for you. Who do you think is gonna be the new James Bond?
I don't know. I mean, I know who I'd want to be James Bond. I would definitely pick Henry Cavill for the role.
Oh, you would be a good James Bond.
I think he's he's got the kind of look. He's tall, dark, handsome, and I think he could definitely pull it off. He's about the right age now as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would probably be my pick. I wouldn't pick Tom Hardy. I think he's too short and he's not particularly looking, and he's probably a bit too old now as well.
Yeah, if they picked him, they would go very sideways with that role. I feel you can't do like a straight movie with Tom Hardy. It needs to be like very convoluted.
Yeah, I would say so. What's the next one? Jen McMahon said, oftentimes in certain films, it comes off like female representation is trying to uphold the idea of males are superior, so we're just kind of replacing rather than being our own people. I think it ties into what you'd said, really, like, rather than competing with men and trying to be like men, it's like there's something kind of uniquely interesting and different about female characters.
Yeah.
And that's something to be like explored and kind of celebrated, I guess, in movies.
Yeah. And it used to be like us aspiring to be, beautiful, not just like from a looks perspective, but like graceful and like having that kind of beauty. And it's like that. No, it's like, no, that's not a good representation of women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gears and Games said, this is why I love jiu-jitsu. It weeds out entitled people on day one. Even the strongest people get destroyed. Women also tend to be more technical and just as dangerous. There you go. Maybe that evens the playing field a little bit. Tom Gibbs said, hello to you all in the super chat catch-up stream. Thank you. Kane Crow said, great conversation, drinker and baggage claim. There we go. Thanks, man. Danu says, I miss chick flicks and I grew up watching like Steel Magnolias and Clueless. Do you think they're not making movies for women anymore either? I don't know. I mean, I couldn't really answer that. I don't know if there is.
Yeah, like you don't really see movies like Legally Blonde getting made, and that's a great movie for women.
Yeah. I'm saying yeah here. It's like I've never seen it. Like I don't know enough about it.
I don't blame
It's
you,
Reese
but it's a good movie.
Witherspoon. Yeah, it's Reese Witherspoon, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Is it the premise that's like, yeah, you can be like conventionally attractive and stuff, but you can also be intensely smart and still succeed at all this other stuff?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like because she's beautiful that everybody sort of underestimates her. And she proves that she can have that as a prior. Like she doesn't need to look terrible to look like a serious woman.
Brado Jacko gave me $2. Cody Rhodes said, can your guests talk about how mothers have lately been portrayed either as crazy or outdated instead of brave and noble?
Oh, this is yeah, I like this question because I think it's actually even happened to fathers. I think parents in general, that whole idea has been really deconstructed. Like, now, like if you have parents as part of a movie, they're usually immature. They're usually like making the actor, like the main characters, cringe, right? It's like they're smoking weed or like having sex where they shouldn't be it's like it's like they're children. And I think with mothers, you can't, if you're just talking about a mother, you can't attack her too much, but you also can't like relish in her too much. You can't say like, oh look, she's sacrificed so much for her children. So instead they take a very different turn of either you're a really negative mother or not one at all.
No, that's kind of feels like that's the way we've gone. Fight the Club said, new video and a new stream from the insightful inebriant on the same day. Good times. Like it when you collab with someone new to me, and I like her already for giving Tatiana the shout out. Hey. Cheers, man. Canon Falderall said, problem with the hero's journey. Where scholars saw the basics of human stories, Hollywood saw a set of boxes to lazily tick for a quick dollar. Cheers. I don't think you're wrong. Yeah. Marigo Ann said, anyone tired of the woman isn't actually a bad guy, it's all the patriarchy / toxic masculinity / capitalism's fault, poor her trope. Yeah, I kind of am. I've talked before about Disney are doing this weird live action remake of things, and one of the things that they're doing is like giving all their villains like an origin story. So people like Cruella de Vil, or the evil witch from Snow White, like they're suddenly getting these origin stories where they're actually really nice people, and like it's just the patriarchy that's made them go down a dark path.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh, fuck off! Like, stop trying to portray it like women are just these like flawless angels, and it's just like the men in their lives that turn them evil. Like, women and men are equally capable of being bad people by themselves. Like, they both have that capacity. It's a really patronizing thing to try and say otherwise, I think.
Yeah, and with WandaVision, I thought, that was actually an interesting exploration of like she's doing terrible things because she wants to keep living this fantasy, but they couldn't go full into that. Like they needed to have like the bad guy being this like white guy, and she's the one like diverse person goes up to her and is like, you're better than this. It just felt so like they could have taken it in so many more interesting ways.
I would have loved to have seen her face the consequences of her actions, and just this recognition of like, oh, you're actually not that nice a person, like if you're willing to do stuff like this.
Right.
But again, like the show tries to portray her as a hero, and it's like, no, she's the opposite of that. Like she's a bad person based on what you've shown us.
She's used her power for personal gain, but like hurt so many people.
Yeah, there you go. That was it. They'll never know how much you gave up for them. It's like you took away their entire lives to begin with. Like you didn't give up anything.
Right. You'll never know how much they gave up for you to have that fantasy that you played out.
Exactly. Yes, that should have been the line. That would have absolutely nailed it. Zen RPG said, men, we love strong and badass characters, no matter if they're male or female. We hate bitchy characters, be it males or females. I think that's true.
That's right.
Nick Janke said, oh my God, it's your face. You look just as I imagined. I don't know if that's an insult or a compliment. Armpit Farter said, have you ever seen Alice Morgan in Luther? She is one of the best ever female characters.
Oh.
I haven't, I'm afraid, mate, so I don't know. Morrigan said, they don't just make women into men, they make them into toxic males. Holdo is an example of a bad leader, as are most of the bosses and girl bosses. Childish drivel written by people who have never had to lead in their lives. Yeah, I think that's not far off.
Yep.
AQ said, you're not drunk enough. Give me a notification once you're way more drunk than that, please. I'm building up to it. What do you want from me, man? When you're running a live stream, you have to be somewhat sober. Otherwise, I'll just be clicking on random buttons and I'll shut down the stream. And I've done it before. Cool Cole said, it's thanks to you that I saw Nobody recently. Really enjoyed it. Good. That's a really good movie. And I'm glad you enjoyed it because, yeah, I like that film.
Mm-hmm.
Norwegian Kryptonian said they call us incels now. Yeah, it's just part of the standard insults, I suppose.
Incels?
Yeah, so that's like involuntary celibates. So it's like basically a guy who can't get laid. Okay. And so it becomes like an insult that people throw around. It's like, well, you're criticizing this female-led movie. Well, clearly you're an incel. Yeah.
This is really random, but one of my friends is working at a really woke company, and they've told them that you can't say the word whitelisted or blacklisted anymore when it comes to like IP addresses. You have to call them allow listed.
I don't want to live in this timeline anymore.
I want to go back to the 90s. Things seem so much more simple then.
And the thing is, I don't even have to get exposed to most of it. Like, I don't work for a company or anything. Right. Like, I just do YouTube, and it's the same for you, actually. But yeah, it's just the fact that this stuff happens, and it happens to other people that pisses me off.
It's exhausting. Yeah.
KC Bondurant said, okay, drinker, talking about settling down and getting fulfillment in your life. So when are you going to make Tatiana an honest woman? There's nothing I can do that will make Tatiana an honest woman. Trust me on that. Captain Caboose said, woo, the drinker, time to hammer down. Absolutely. Rob H said, shit, son, I'm late to the chat. I'll have to catch up on the re-upload. Hello, guest, hail drinker, and as always, Cobra Kai. Ellie's gay, by the way. Yeah, she is indeed. Brado Jacko said, ESG scoring and the Great Reset, 100% cause of woke. Yeah, it's that's something that's coming into even what I do, is that ESG scoring.
What is that?
Economic, social, and whatever the other one stands for. So it's basically how they rate companies. It's like a social credit score based on how like economically and environmentally responsible you are as a company. The higher it is, the more chance you're going to get investment. Okay. Steve Meyer said, hey, drinker, would you be interested in doing a live stream with Calvin Dyson? He's YouTube's utmost authority on Bond, maybe Octopussy or Goldfinger. Wait a minute, who's Calvin Dyson? That name is familiar. Oh, yeah, I fucking know that guy. Yeah, he's awesome. I fucking love his reviews of Bond. Yeah, I would absolutely love to do a stream with him. I think he's really funny, really engaging, and he knows everything about Bond, more than I'll ever know, that's for sure. Yeah, good guy. Morgan says, young writers with zero life experience and woke college indoctrination are hired for pennies to write easily translated trash for a global market. It's the perfect storm for garbage stories with no nuance or creativity. Yeah, I think you're right. Not inclined to argue with that one.
Mm-hmm.
Jake of all trades said, if you're taking flack, then you're over the mark. Yeah, I think that's about us getting criticism from people for for saying things that we say. Jim Papadakis gave me a super sticker for 20 euros. Thanks, man. And Frozen in the 80s gave me $5. Thank you. Jonathan M said, this talk is so good. Cheers for all of this. See, we've done something right. We've done something good.
Good. Not bad for a Thursday.
Yeah. The Outcast Creative said, have to spend some more cash to say this is one of the best guests and chat on the channel. Two people who both understand characters, story arcs. Bravo.
Wow.
Nice.
Thank you.
We've done good.
Yeah.
Adamation said, you might say Rhett Butler told her to go away now. Perfect.
Need that edit. I'm sure one of your fans will do it.
Yeah, just like that's his parting line to her. It's just like,
Yeah.
go away now.
Right now. That's all for today.
Yeah, exactly. Analia Strobel said, OT, perfect cleanser for Boba Fett. Try Priest, a badass Paul Bettany versus Corbin in post-apocalyptic desert. Excellent script, great visuals, storytelling, no scenes are wasted. Right, okay, Priest. Cool. I'll keep that one in mind because I like Carl Urban. Raised by Wolves said Rhett didn't care about being used and married to for money. He just didn't want her to lie about it and pretend to care when she didn't.
It's actually true. Yeah.
Andrew Etheridge said a marriage story. It was an example of how women can control and manipulate men on a purely emotional level. Is that Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
And I think she's I think part of the struggle is that she has custody over the child, if I'm not mistaken, or is able to get custody. Yeah.
Okay. Spike in Madness said, when brute strength fails, employ ingenuity. Yeah, good advice.
That's right.
Captain Caboose, I don't mean that, but Gone with the Wind also had the first African-American Oscar in the form of Best Supporting Actress for Mammy.
That's right.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Kind of shit for her, actually, because I think she had to stay in a different hotel from the rest of the nominees.
Well, initially they said that she couldn't even attend, and the actors all protested, saying that if she couldn't attend, they would not, and so they allowed her to attend on that. So it was a good, like, groundbreaking situation.
Holy shit, that's like Hollywood actually doing something good.
Yeah. Like
Man.
what they claim to do every day today, they were actually doing it then.
Yeah, like what, 70 years ago?
Yeah.
Damn. Josh Brooks said, this defeminization is moving to video games. Diablo 2 is resurrected. The Amazon and Assassin characters have clothes that cover way more than they did before. Why did they feel compelled to make this change? Fear of the mob. Most probably, I would say. Yeah, they're going to get a lot of criticism on social media, and that's generally all it takes.
Yeah.
Right. Sorry, I just had to refresh that. So I'm just moving back down the list. Give me 1 second.
Take your time.
This is where I go suspiciously silent for a few seconds. Oh yeah, here we go. So Das Pooch said, fantastic conversation you two have been having. Great guest. Just subscribe to her. Have a great night, you two. Thanks very much, man.
Thank you.
There you go. You got an extra subscriber.
Wonderful.
Ray Storman said, it's all about driving a wedge between kids and their parents so that they can be indoctrinated.
Yep.
I don't disagree.
Big time.
T. Lau Auto said, new discourses, James Lindsay explains it all. Okay. Dan Ronan said, one of the many frustrating things is they know their their new characters are trash and our legacy heroines are great. That doesn't matter to them. Yeah, I'm sure it doesn't. What pisses me off most is when they just co-opt a character, take it over, and try and turn it into something else. Like that's the most disrespectful thing of all.
Oh, I think this commenter might have been talking about Sex in the City because like a couple of the characters have gotten like completely trashed. Like they've absolutely destroyed the legacy of certain characters. But even in soft reboots and stuff, when they do that, it's terrible. Like even what they did with Luke Skywalker, that was despicable.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not going to get any argument from me there.
Yeah.
Bruce Koala Killer said, that happened to my boss. Her eldest daughter, a tomboy, was groomed and gaslit by school and doctors trying to tee her up when puberty hit. The mum resisted. Now the daughter is safe and realizes they lied to her. Damn, that's scary stuff, man.
It's really scary.
Dan Ronan also said they don't have the talent or wherewithal to think and create something better. So their goal is to take what we love and burn it all down. Yeah. I've talked a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Wobbly Rampack gave me £10. Thanks, man. Soupy Colombo, hey drinker, I always go to a league of their own when talking about female representation. Huge female cast, but the ladies are all well-rounded characters, and the female characters aren't denigrated. Nice one, yeah, can't argue with that. Mark Allen said Vasquez and aliens. That is all. That's all you need to say. She had the best comeback I think ever when she's doing pull-ups and Hudson just says to her, "Hey Vasquez, you ever been mistaken for a man?" Like, no, have you?
Have you?
Fucking brilliant comeback, and I love it.
Love it.
Evil Zombie Toe said Disney has already alluded to a Firefly reboot. Yeah, apparently that's what's happening based on those articles I saw.
Not watching that. No way.
Why we can't have nice things.
Yep.
Bear Business said Drinker picked the Scotsman as the best Bond. No surprise. Yeah, what can I say? You biased drunkard, you. Hail, thank you for the content. Come on, as if you'd pick anything apart from Sean Connery. Lana Gukina said, look up and just like that, Russian women scandal. Okay.
Really?
Jim said, make the John Oliver the next James Bond so we can make sure the franchise stays dead forever. Fair play. Hobx said, Tony learns to be selfless. Steve learns to be a healthy version of selfish, and that's okay to allow himself some happiness. Yeah, that's the kind of arc that the two characters go on. Yeah. They kind of cross paths.
Yeah.
Which I think is good.
Yeah, like each of them helps the other grow.
Yep. Wobbly Rampack said, hello drinker, I really appreciate your presence on YouTube. How do we counter the attack on masculinity we've seen in modern media, given most of us don't have the reach that you do? Just don't support things that are shit, and try and call attention to things that are good. Yeah, that's the best you can do.
Yeah.
Aleph Project says, here's to buy some sleeves. How did you buy that shirt in Scotland? I bought it in the summertime, so yeah, we do get a short summer here. Andrew Clark said the rebooting Firefly doesn't stand a chance. I agree. JJ said, love this conversation. What's your take on the destruction of Luke Skywalker in the sequels by Disney? I think it sucks.
Yeah.
That was the thing that was the straw that broke the camel's back for me with them. I went into The Last Jedi just thinking, I don't mind what they do in this movie. I just hope they do Luke Skywalker justice. And they ruined him. So
yeah,
that was what turned me against that film, really.
Yeah. Yeah, it was terrible. I think that whole thing of like destroy the past, right? Kill it. Like they took that so far, and that even a hero like Luke Skywalker didn't deserve to remain a hero, that he needed to be like nothing. And they didn't even make him like a darker version of himself. They just made him nothing.
Not only was he bad, but he was kind of pathetically bad at the same time. Like even, he had nothing even that he could teach Rey. And then she ends up kicking his ass in a lightsaber fight. Like it's like, can you possibly humiliate him anymore?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's such a weird way of telling a story, but it kind of ties into that thing that you mentioned before in your video, where like there's this real sense of bitterness and mean-spiritedness towards characters like that.
Yeah.
Where it's like we can't even let you appreciate them for a second. They have to be destroyed and then killed.
Yeah. And watching Mark Hamill's interviews about it, that he thought like he was going to play Luke Skywalker, that he was going to play a big role, and it was not, I think he felt like really, really lied to overall. And then what was the other thing I was going to say? Never mind. I lost my train of thought. But I thought that was just terrible.
To me all the time.
Yeah. No big deal.
The more drinks I have, the more it happens.
I have no excuse. I'm just chugging water here. I have zero excuse.
You're too Californian and healthy, goddammit.
I know. Also, like, me being day drunk is not good for anybody.
That is true. Like, see, because it's late here, so I can get away with it.
Yeah, exactly. Next time we'll do it on my evening time.
Yeah, it'll be like morning for me. I'll have to drink tea or something. Mackenzie Lambert said, just joined the chat. Any talk of Emily Blunt from Edge of Tomorrow? Now, that's a female character. Yeah, we did talk about her, didn't we?
She's the best. I love her character.
She's awesome. I really appreciated Emily Blunt. She seemed to kind of bulk up for the role as well. She actually had some real kind of muscle about her. And it's like, I can kind of believe that this person is a soldier doing this stuff.
What's interesting is that she had like solid trap. Is this called traps right here?
Right? Yeah, that's your traps. Yeah.
Like they like hid it within her outfit because it would have just looked strange, but she like super bulked up for it. But what I loved, like in her interviews, she talked about how much she like complained, and then Tom Cruise was like, all right, stop. Like she really gave Tom Cruise so much credit for what he does so well. Yeah. I appreciated that she appreciated him.
Yeah. No, I like that. And like my respect for him has kind of grown over the years. Like, crazy Scientology stuff aside, like his actual work ethic and his dedication to like doing his own stunts and stuff and being this physical action hero who's almost 60, that is impressive. Yeah. Like come what may, that's a pretty cool thing to be doing. And yeah, I love the Mission Impossible movies. He's really still nailing it with them.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Drunken Viking said, I'm here for the drinker. I miss really strong female characters like Ripley that felt genuine and honest. I also miss the dwarves from Snow White. Yeah. Peter Dinklage has had dwarves banned now. Like they're done. Yep. So funny. I can't believe we live in a timeline where we're arguing about this.
I know.
George Haffens said, good day to you, drinker. I live for that. Go away now. Okay, well, here's one. Go away now. Soupy Columbo said, drinker's screen was caught manspreading. There we go. Corey Coleman says, sorry.
I saw that. That was when I accidentally booted off, and I saw that when I came back.
Oh, okay, there we go. Corey Coleman said, Atomic Blonde, the badassness is enhanced with how hard it really is to kill a man. Yes, that I've said this before. I hold up Atomic Blonde as one of the best sort of fight scenes between a man and a woman, because Charlize Theron, she really takes a beating in that, but she's able to keep going, and it's a proper drag out brawl. Yeah, love it. I think it's great. Aleph Project said, hail drinker, what software do you broadcast with? Want to be as cool as you? Well, you have to get this shirt. But yeah, it's StreamYards. Just StreamYards, nice and easy. It's free if you want the most basic version. And yeah, you can just stream straight to your YouTube channel. So there you go. Jar of Mayo said, Zorro is getting a remake too. He'll be a Latinx hacker. Back to the Future might also be coming back. No! All the booze in Scotland won't make that good.
No.
Well, Zemeckis has said that like as long as he's alive, there'll never be another Back to the Future movie. So please live forever, Robert. Justin Whitsitt said, what are your expectations for the new Batman movie? I'm cautiously optimistic. I think the trailers make it look pretty good.
Very interesting.
Yeah. I wasn't sold on Pattinson initially, but I'm coming around to the idea. The trailers make it seem all right. So yeah, I'll give it a go.
Did you ever see his movie, The Lighthouse?
Yes, I've reviewed it.
Oh, did you like it?
I really liked it, yeah. It doesn't make a lick of sense, but I don't think it's meant to. Just a crazy kind of art house movie.
Yeah.
But like the performances are fantastic.
Yes.
Like him and Dafoe, just great. Absolutely own it.
Yeah. I had no idea what happened though. I had no idea.
No. I don't think anyone does, but you're not meant to. Like it's just it's kind of open to interpretation, but I like movies like that occasionally.
Okay. I can see it.
Doomslaying Dempsey said, drinker, would you ever consider a review of the Naked Gun series? Yeah. Classic comedy that still holds up today but could never be made in modern era. Yeah, I think it's pretty good. I love Leslie Nielsen in it.
He's so good.
Yeah. Echo Chamberlain said, hey drinker, your charming guest appearance is like a constellation of sparkling diamonds lighting up the night sky. Where did you find such a shirt?
I think you need to sell this shirt after this.
I know. It was in the bargain aisle at like Primark or something. What's the next one? Kelly Johnson says, Drinker, why does Red Sonja get slept on? Oh yeah, she is. She is a pretty fucking cool character.
Where is she from?
I don't know where she's from, but she's like she's in the kind of same universe as like Conan the Barbarian and stuff. Like she's
Oh.
a sort of sword and sorcery kind of character. Yeah, so it was a movie from back in the 1980s. I think it had Bridget Nielsen in it, and Arnold Schwarzenegger. So yeah, she was pretty fucking cool. Like I did like Red Sonja. JJ said, "Please end the stream on a go away now." Of course I will. Don't worry. Paisley Shepherd, strong female character, the alien queen from Aliens. Yeah, exactly. She's exemplifying motherhood right there. She's the alien queen. You know, she just wants to have babies. I mean, she lays them in people, but that's all right.
Yeah.
Sean McPherson, I'm always turned on by Eva Marie Saint in North by Northwest, a strong female character with courage and selflessness. Didn't try to be masculine or physically strong too. North by Northwest. Damn, I need to rewatch that.
Yeah.
That's been a long time.
I watched a video where someone said North by Northwest was the first Bond film, like unofficially. And the guy like breaks down why he thinks that, and I was like I like saw his point.
It's yeah, but it's an unwilling Bond because the guy gets kind of pulled into this thing, like, and he's not prepared for it. Whereas Bond, obviously, very much is. But yeah, I see where they're going with that.
Yeah.
Sonny said male characters shouldn't be made worse to make females better, like Harry Potter. Hermione's a great character in the books, but they gave her so many of Harry's moments in the movies, and it's the same with Wheel of Time.
Yeah. And they did that to like Ron Weasley a ton too. They really destroyed Ron Weasley's character in the movies. They gave a lot of his stuff to Hermione. They made Hermione kind of perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to be totally honest. I'm not too familiar with the books. But yeah.
No worries.
So like it favors Hermione in the movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nebula Jumper said before, strong female characters were defined by how they reacted to the setting and the story of the movie. Now they try to wrap the story around the strong female character and try to make it work. That's kind of an interesting idea, actually. Yeah,
makes sense.
Jeffrey Lawrence said, "Do you buy into the theory that The Rock is a James Bond movie?" Yes, I do actually. So The Rock's got Sean Connery in it. And it's like in the mid-90s, so he's obviously much older, but he's a British secret agent that got caught and he's been in prison for 30 years. And the sort of fan theory is that he's James Bond and he's just been trapped in prison for all this time. I love it. I fucking love The Rock. I think it's a great movie. Sean Connery just radiates charisma in that film. It's great. So yeah, I'm fully bought into that theory. Gregory said for $50, or sorry, €50, man. Thank you. Said, "Hail Drinker, I remember a martial art documentary where a woman was teaching Krav Maga to Israeli military. She'd set up one guy versus 10. After he got his ass kicked, she'd shout at him because he didn't think and pick up a stick that was on the floor nearby." Interesting. Using your environment to your advantage. Yeah, Israel is kind of an interesting one, actually, because like men and women both get drafted into the military there.
Right.
You've all got to do your national service.
Yeah.
So it's quite gender neutral. David Scott Goldie gave me £1. Thanks, man. Fanta Boomer said, "I liked Cavill as Napoleon Solo in The Man from U.N.C.L.E. Yeah. That was kind of like just a dry run for Bond, really.
Yeah.
Poland 805 said, "Classic Lara Croft is a great example of femininity versus feminist traits. She's charming, capable, witty, and attractive. See the Drinker video for more." Yeah, I did a video about Lara Croft, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was, expressing my appreciation for the original version of her versus what we got now, where she's just like this mopey kind of emo chick with daddy issues, and before she was just like. Yeah, you know what's interesting? It's like the original Lara Croft. She was kind of strong and self-defined and stuff, but she came from a rich, privileged background. But she didn't try to hide it. She wasn't ashamed of that. Whereas in the new one, they have to give her this weird angle where she's kind of rejected her rich upbringing, and she's like
Yeah.
living in poverty and stuff because that makes her more relatable somehow. It's
Yeah.
like it wasn't about being something that everyone can relate to. It was about just being awesome and kick ass, and
Yeah.
that's what made the original Lara Croft just fun. And I kind of liked how she had this like quirky, fun personality as well. Like she didn't take things too seriously, and she would make fun of people who were holding her at gunpoint because that's the kind of person she was.
Yeah. I guess like you can't like that whole like quirky, just sort of like a lighthearted approach to life. It's just like, I don't know. It's like you can't do that anymore. You have to acknowledge that life sucks for everybody, and you're just so privileged that that's why you're having fun.
I think so, yeah. I think the idea now of like a sort of rich white girl from the UK from like an aristocratic background being the
Yeah.
hero of your story, not gonna fly. So they have to like come up with all these workarounds for her, and
Yeah.
yeah, I always think it's
These
funny like the
damaged goods.
yeah, well, the new Lara Croft is like, she's gunning down people by the dozen, but she's apologizing the whole time as well, and like having all these like agonizing moments of like, oh God, what am I doing? And it's like
Yeah.
the original games just didn't even do that. Like you never really fought people. You were up against like at worst animals or whatever that just happened to
Right.
be in the tomb with you. Um, and it avoided that whole problem. Um, Chi-Wan Lee said they're making a Legally Blonde 3. Seriously? Are they?
Like with the same cast, I wonder.
Hold on.
This
I've got
is
to get to the
another
bottom of this one.
Okay.
Legally Blonde 3. Oh, shit. Yeah. It's coming out in 2022. So who's going to
Just
be in
come
it?
up with the new stuff. God.
Yeah, Reese Witherspoon's still going to be in it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
This will be interesting.
David Scott Goldie said, fears for the new the new Snow White remake, and thoughts on Dinklage getting short with Disney. Oh, I see what you did there, sir. He's getting too big
Sweet
for his
burn.
boots. Yeah. Yeah, I don't care about Snow White. I hate these live action movies.
Mm-hmm.
Neil Fish gave me a thank you super sticker for £10. Cheers, mate. Scott Swain said, what are your thoughts on the Loki series that came out a few months ago? Go see my review. I've done a review of it. I didn't like it that much. I thought they ruined Loki's character.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was all done so that they could have women kick him in the balls and call him pathetic. And
Yeah.
it was just unnecessary.
I barely got through like one episode, and it was like he was like completely impotent.
Yeah, it doesn't get any better.
Mm-hmm.
I think the low point came when he's sitting next to female Loki, because there's like a alternate universe version of him that's female, and of course
Okay.
she's better than him at everything.
Of course.
And he falls in love with her, which is weird because it's like falling in love with yourself in a way.
Yeah.
But anyway, they're sat together on like a log waiting for like the end of the universe or whatever it is, and he's like, "Oh, I'm cold." Like, it's like he's doing a woman thing, and it's like, "Oh, it's cold here." So, like, the thing is, Loki's a frost giant. That's who he's descended from. So cold
Right.
shouldn't even bother him. But like, he has to
Yeah.
conjure up a magical cloak to go around himself, and then it's the
So
saddest thing I
delicate.
think. Yeah, it's the saddest thing I think I've ever seen. Chris Nicholson said, my two favorite YouTubers together. As much as we all like to joke around here, you two have the most based and insightful take on society, culture, and its many problems. Keep up the amazing work.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank
That's
you,
so
man.
sweet.
Cheers, man. Anthony Stabile said, cheers to the drinker. Cheers, man. Thank you. Mr. DJ Fly High said, hail drinker, thoughts on modern media playing the empathy route when it comes to female representation. Also, your thoughts on female representation in Japanese anime compared to Western animation and anime. Oh, there's a topic. I think the Japanese are much more traditional with how they portray female characters. Yeah, they're generally much softer, and I don't want to make generalizations because I know there's animes and stuff where they're like absolute kick-ass assassins and stuff, but they don't feel the need to like make them somehow stronger than men and like more stoic and masculine than guys are.
Mhm.
So I think they generally have I guess a better representation of them. Yeah, I'm not sure about the empathy route when it comes to female representation. I think they like to make a show of being empathetic and
Mhm.
representative, but they don't really give a shit.
Yeah.
Um,
I thought I know this is not anime, but in Avatar, the Last Airbender, like Azula is just such a powerful character, and they did that really well because she's like so much more powerful than her brother, but they didn't do it in a way that really compromised her femininity.
okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't have enough familiarity with it, unfortunately, to talk on it. What's the next one? Kelly Johnson. Oh, here's a good one. Daenerys from Game of Thrones, villain or tragic hero?
Mm.
I'm going to go with villain. I think if you've incinerated an entire city and killed hundreds of thousands of people, yeah, you don't really qualify as a tragic hero in my book anymore.
Yeah.
Um, but that's a lot of that's just down to bad writing. Like, I think if they'd done her better, they could have portrayed her as a tragic hero for sure. But like, yeah, it's just really clumsy.
Yeah, they did it over like 3 episodes, and it was way
Yeah, she
too
goes.
rushed.
Yeah, she goes from being like rock solid, like a really good person, to like a genocidal mass murderer. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
you can't do that to someone.
Like, how did that happen? They really didn't connect the dots there.
No. Exotic player gave me a super sticker for £5. Cheers, man. Ghost Ninja said, in most Marvel comics, Scarlet Witch is a villain. I would love to see her played as an out and out villain. That's what I think they need to do, just acknowledge it. Brado Jacko said, I love Maleficent until I realized the woke plan. Yeah, it's all men's fault. Armpit Farter says, Drinker, I'm 55 now, so how do you think I feel about all this woke crap? It makes my piss boil and I long for the old days. Well, at least you got to live through the good times.
Yeah. It sucks that this is the time we're getting to live through.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
The sad thing is, there are people that are growing up in this time, and
Yeah. And we're
they
going to
don't
have to
know it.
raise kids in this time.
I know, this is it. This is why I keep reviewing older movies, and it's like, go watch this. This will entertain you,
Yeah.
because it's actually good.
Yep.
Beef 3D says, cheers to my Scottish brother from another mother. You can't prove that. Um, don't got Scotch, but I'll crack a Belgian cold one for you. Belgian beer's pretty good, man. To good entertainment. Cheers, mate. Eva Fox said, Drinker, quick question about your novels. Were there any spy cliches you tried hard to avoid? I've been trying to work up a more futuristic spy story, and I wanted to avoid those cliches. Thanks, man. Good question. So, cliches in mine? I don't know. I mean, they're not spy stories in the sense of like being James Bond type things where it's like gentleman spies. It's much more like the Born Identity type spying where it's like down and dirty. Yeah, I don't think that there was anything that I consciously tried to avoid. I never have things rely on luck in my stories. So I hate it in movies or books or whatever when a character just scrapes through a situation through sheer blind luck.
Hmm.
And they always seem to like turn up lucky on whatever happens. Like, no, that's an awful way to write your story. So like, if anything, like my characters are unlucky and like unexpected things happen to them that derail their plans. So yeah, that's what I try to stick to.
Nice.
Life is not accommodating when it comes to your plans, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Robin Dahlgren Johnson said, what were you thinking ranking Daniel Craig above George Lazenby? I always thought Craig was just some random extra, sadly walking around on screen, contemplating his own lack of charisma. I mean, I put Lazenby at the bottom because he can't fucking act in the slightest, and his voice had to be dubbed over by another actor, so like he couldn't even do that. So all you got is like half a performance from him. So yeah, he sucks, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, even as much as I dislike Daniel Craig, I would definitely rank him above Lazenby.
Yeah. And he put a lot of work into that character too. Like he did a lot, like he pushed himself on a lot of stunts and things. And then he actually pushed for proper directors to be hired, proper cinematographers. Like he wanted to be really stylized. Like he really aimed for that too. Uh-oh, what happened?